Or maybe not.
I believe.
So maybe not.
No, I can't. I can only hear your mic. I can hear myself when I talk.
Know why this is happening. It's like every time I like click on an input, it like starts working, but it like doesn't consistently work. I think. I don't know. I
Okay,
can.
got it, got
Oh, it looks like we're good now. Okay. It really wouldn't be a scrim stream if we didn't have some sort of like scuffed something. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna check out the advanced things. Looks like maybe it's like auto down mixing them out. Oh wait, whatever. As long as like people are like able to hear things, I think that's what truly matters here. Um, okay, it looks like Jacob has picked red side for Janley Animal Control, which means all of our graphics are correct, which is a godsend, to be honest. Would you like to start looking at the player heights highlights with me, Michael?
it. Sure, I would love to.
That sounds great. All right. Let's actually look at the featured player for each team first. I want to take a quick look at Stanley, as most play champions are getting pinker by the minute. The Seraphine is now popping up. Looks to be an impressive stat line. What stands out to you?
Definitely the Zillion pick is something that he can really support his team on, and Zillion does a deceptive amount of damage, especially if he starts hitting double bombs. Mostly because his Victor is almost perma banned away.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, he doesn't get to bring that out in scrims too much. But I think that Zillion, especially with the R utility, it's a terrifying pick for sure.
yeah, I agree. I think the one potential downside to it could be that I feel like generally they don't necessarily play through other people as the carries. Stanley is definitely the strongest player on this team, so I think him being on that more supportive style champion could have a downside compared to like traditional control mages, but uh, shouldn't be too big of a deal in general. I'm actually going to pull up a player highlight of Blake because I completely forgot that this next game is going to be a huge milestone for Blake and to an extent the server as a whole because it should be his 100th game of scrims. I was reminded
Wow.
by looking at Stanley's because if this goes to a best of three, Stanley will be playing his 100th game of scrims as well. Um, and of course, when I generated the assets, I completely forgot to make sure Blake was the highlighted player. So
Of course, of course.
yeah, we can. It is what it is, man. Things are scuffed. This is why we start early. We still have like 12 more minutes until draft. We can just take it easy. Oh, it's slow. What do you think these teams are going to match up? Like, what do you think is going to be the result of this game?
I definitely think that it's going to come down to wait. Who are the one second? I just need to figure out the roster for both teams.
I can pull it up real quick.
Okay.
Um, it should be in the champs. Yeah, that should give you a good look at the rosters.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to come down to Jackson being able to control Blake and whatever crazy off meta pick he decides to pull out this game. And I think that if they can really lock him down and or at least stop him from going too crazy on whatever random chip he decides is good this time, and allow everybody else the time to scale, I think that it's going to be a pretty it's going to come down to top lane's impact, which will probably not have an impact on the game. So we'll see.
That's potentially true. I think looking at the screen while we have it up, I think honestly the 6 bottom champions on the screen right now are the ones that shouldn't really get through. I think you can make one exception, swap out the Misfortune for the Gangplank, but Sivir is just way too strong, especially with first pick giving over to Clawseted Furries. I am hoping that Janley Animal Control is not cheating and listening to the stream right now and hearing me tell them ban Sivir, but they should absolutely do it, and if they don't, I would be shocked. Victor, Swain, and Nami are all great bans against Janley Animal Control. Swain's just a pretty good champion. Unfortunately, we did have a game postponement by Clawseted Furry, so they do have to forfeit their first ban this game.
It'll be interesting to see which champ they leave up. I think definitely of those three, whichever one does get left up is going to be an instant snatch, unless they decide that they can play one of the champs better than them. So they may go for is ban whatever it is, the Swain and Nami, and pick Victor themselves. Is something they could do if they want to ego on them really hard, but we'll see whether or not they leave it up for them or try to take it themselves as a way of getting a third ban anyway.
Yeah, that actually could be pretty interesting. I know Zach has been playing a lot of LeBlanc and Heimerdinger recently, but I don't know if he does play the Victor, and I would kind of be terrified to see the Victor end up in a different lane other than mid. I just don't think it's like that great for like this team specifically. Obviously, for Janley Animal Control, Stanley is just a crazy Victor player, so being able to play that in other lanes is good for them. I just don't think that Clawseted Furries has the same prio on it. So I do think it is possible that they kind of ban out the Swain Victor or the Victor and something else and then pick up the Nami, because Layla has played a lot of Nami in the server as well. I'm just going to do a quick stat check just to confirm that. Either way, yeah, she is the third highest Nami in the server in terms of games played. She has a 3.84 KD on it, which is not bad at all, although she's only won one of the games. But I don't think she's performed individually poorly, at least like to a worrisome extent in any of those games. So that could be a cool pick that we could see come out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Nami is also one of those champions that when you are playing against the Nami, you don't think it's an issue, and then you look at your death recap, and Nami has done 50% of the damage with being an entire screen away. So I definitely think that it is a pretty strong champ at the moment. So I would like to see them, pick up a Nami if they don't ban it themselves. I think that it is something that does have a lot of good pairings, whether it's the pairing it with Lucian or another champion that can really make use of the slows and the buffs. I think that would be a pretty good pickup for them.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, like Garrett's IGN is fourth shot that thought. He is a huge Jhin player, and Jhin Nami is pretty good, so that could be something we see coming out here. I'm just going to flip the highlight over to Blake, just because we were talking about him earlier. He has played 99 games in Scrim, so this one will be Blake's 100th Scrims game. Just, for the culture, we can hope it's a dub, and then maybe Stanley will get 2 in a row, and he'll get the, the dub on his own.
He'll get his own dub for...
That would be pretty funny. 2 100th game dubs in one series. I honestly forget Anne's 100th game. I think we kind of weren't paying attention, but I do know I won my 100th game. So we could get a perfect 4-0 record for people on their 100th games. I would have to go back and check for Anne's. Blake does have a pretty impressive 56.6% win rate. 2.56 KD is not great, but obviously he plays a lot of solo lanes, so it's easy for that KD to kind of end up in that 2.5 range instead of the normal ideal 3 range that we typically see. He's only played 30 champions across his 99 games, so he's averaging over 3 games per champion. I know these champs that we are seeing are much higher than that. Cassidy, he was known for an extremely long amount of time. Ended up kind of dropping the champ for a little bit, but this GP has been kind of notorious for days, or not for days, for months. I'm actually going to see if I can pull up a Twitch clip from the the infamous GP game. I think it could be cool to watch some highlights of that.
Yeah,
Um,
I know personally I have someone on my team decided to give him the gift of GP one game, and as the ADC, I got the 0.0 second treatment twice that game, which was extremely unfortunate for me. Um, but it's definitely something that, especially with First Strike, if he can start getting ahead, and like I was talking about earlier, start if he bullies Jackson in lane, especially if they put Jackson on gank duty, First Strike is just going to get him so far ahead whether or not he actually gets the kills, and it's going to be something that if he can pull off the barrel combos and people don't focus the barrels, it's something that's going to be very difficult to deal with later on in the game.
yep, I agree. I honestly, I don't think we're going to see it at all. I am honestly just going to. This is going to be a little scuffed, but it is what it is. Uh, it is going to be this clip right here. Um,
Oh,
Oh my!
okay.
That,
Well,
that was.
that's
told
Prowlers
did a
and
little bit early, but
oh,
Oh my!
that was the notorious Blake GP game. Uh, it was against Jacob, so I think there might be some kind of like residual feelings about the horrendous acts that transpired that game. There were a couple other good clips from that one, but just got to give a little preview of what we can get from this GP for
Not
stuff.
that
So
not that I think we're going to get a GP.
yeah, it's always fun to speculate. Like maybe they will be kind and go, oh, it's Blake's 100th game, give him the GP. Blake, if you're listening to stream, again, competitive integrity probably shouldn't be doing that, but you should tell them it is my 100th game. Give me the GP. Like
Exactly. I think that it's definitely something that we have to look out for. Or well, we probably won't be looking out for, but his other champs are a lot of those similar hard carry champs where they can deal enough damage where if they can get someone on something more supportive or something with utility, he can really solo carry the game just by dealing enough damage to kill the entire enemy team. Especially on things like Yone, Viego, and Silas,
true.
which have been seen pretty recently. They are things that are deal a ridiculous amount of damage, especially with Yone passive and Viego passive. And Silas is extremely strong in the meta at the moment. So if they give him something with some good R's, we may be seeing that come out.
Yeah. I think that Champion is just like super giga busted. I know in pro play, a lot of times teams will just B1 first rotation that champion, just because the only real counterplay to it is just simply draft champions that don't have good ultimates, and then you're just screwed because of how the current meta is right now. I'm just going to flip up the last couple player highs real quick. We only have a couple minutes left. Zach, most played champions, Misfortune, Oriana, Vel'Koz, Brand, and Lux. 7 games, 42.9% win rate. Pretty new. All of his games have been during this current season. 3.73 KD is disgustingly good, especially given the 42% win rate. And then we will highlight the featured matchup. This one's pretty easy. No matches have been played, not much to talk about. Both of these players have Zac as their most played jungle champion. So we could see some sort of prior on that. But I think both of these players also have a very good Zac counter available. So I honestly wouldn't expect to see uh, any of them pick Zac. But if the Udyr gets banned out, Chimmy might end up on the Zac just because he hasn't played any champions besides those two. So we don't really have a good measure of how much depth he has. Blake has informed me in the DMs that they requested that Anne pick 5 melee champions and give them GP. So we'll see if that happens. I think very, very low, but cool to speculate, Could be fun. All right, I'm going to head
Yeah.
over to draft. Ideally, we will be starting in the next minute or so. Let's just restate our predictions. We are predicting that against Clawseted Furries, we get the Gangplank, Sivir, and Karma bans, I believe. Might see the Udyr or the Zac as well instead of the Karma, just to guess. And then I think Closeted Furries is probably going to ban Victor and either a jungler or Swain, and then first pick the Nami. But obviously they're kind of locked into that if the Karma gets banned. Not like hard locked, but Layla and Shimmy have both only played 2 champions. So it feels like a soft force, or we get to see a new champion, which is equally as fun. It is 8:10. The draft should be starting. Um, I don't know if they're going to be starting or not. Alright, okay. Taking down the blue ban. They actually just have to ban none here, so we might just watch this roll all the way down. Ideally, there would be a champion that is illegal to pick anyway, so then they could just ban that champion. They're assuming no one's going to pick Ivern, so the Ivern ban gets burned. I think that's probably a valid play here. So we are predicting one of those 3 bans. Udyr was not one of the ones we stated directly. We said a maybe on that one, I think,
But seeing the Udyr, there might be prio on the ZAC here.
Right.
Which would be interesting if they ban it themselves. We might see a B1 ZAC.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like a... Yeah, so I think that is like an attempt at like a bait ban. So I think that they were trying to bait out the ZAC. Clawseted Furries intelligently responds to this by banning out champions that counter ZAC. That's the way to go. That Sivir is taken off the table. They absolutely need to do that. And then Victor. So those make sense. And then the GP. So we are pretty locked onto that. This is just a question if this is the Nami pickup or the Karma. Because the Karma is left up, and I feel like Layla prefers it. But looks like we are going to get the Nami locked in. I think this is great. Huge comfort champion for Layla, and Jacob definitely suffers when it is taken away from him. So we'll see how this goes.
It will be interesting whether they decide to pick AD here, because Lucian being one of the biggest Nami abusers, as well as Garrett having a lot of Jhin mastery, they may be looking to pick one of those 2 champions here to try to deny the matchup and give themselves something a little bit more favorable bot lane.
Okay, so Jacob has been spamming Soraka basically nonstop. He's been memeing that, like, even though Michaela's name is the OTP Soraka or whatever, that they are the actual one-trick pony Soraka. So we'll see if all this practice has paid off. I think it is really hard to punish with Soraka, so they're simply hoping that their team is going to scale up well enough that the Soraka is going to come in huge. Swain could be a really good thing to accompany it, but we'll have to see.
We see the Viego. This could be... I think recently Viego has been much stronger at the jungle than top lane, but
Definitely.
that is not to say that they didn't pick the Viego to take it away from Blake in the top lane, because they do not have a GP this game.
I'm going to assume that this is a Mumu Hover is probably going to be jungle, just because the only other role where it's really good right now is support, and they have Nami locked in already, so I wouldn't assume that the Mumu would go support over that. Just knowing what I know about Janley's players, this is almost 100% a Viego jungle on Anne. They love this champion. I don't know why they picked it this early in draft. I think they could have probably just gone with that Swain. It's a very safe combination with the Soraka. And Anne definitely has a lot of agency in drafts just because of their champion pool and the type of player that they are. Looks like we get the Ezreal locked in with the Nami. I like that pairing almost as as much as I do the Jhin. I think they're both pretty good, and Ezreal is just going to be able to safely farm up into whatever is partnered with the Soraka, so this should be a pretty good bot lane for Clawseted Furries, pretty safe. And they do get the counter matchup here with the Amumu into Viego.
Exactly, and I think Viego definitely struggles as a champion when he isn't able to find the resets, and being able to pick something super safe like the Ezreal is helpful in denying that snowball.
And we see the Twitch locked in. This champion is pretty strong right now. Obviously, Soraka is not going to enable any of these crazy submarine type compositions we love to see with the Twitch, but still a fun pick regardless. Twitch does fairly well into Ezreal, but I think most of BC is able to punish the early weaknesses of Ezreal, because Ezreal should just be able to space out the Twitch throughout the game. And I think the Soraka is not going to have the easiest time setting up the Twitch, so hopefully Garrett will be able to play around the kind of stealth shenanigans, but we will definitely have to see. Misfortune taken off the table. This has to just be a ban against mid. I know Zach has played it twice, has not died on this champion in the mid lane in scrims. Kind of huge. The Zillion that you were talking about earlier is taken away, and Blake's Malphite is banned away as well, followed by a Volibear ban away from Jackson. All four of these bans are just respecting highly played champions from the remaining players left to lock in a champion. Seems to be spread out one apiece, which is actually pretty funny. Normally you want to double ban one of the roles, especially on red side, but
I think they're just looking to take people off comfort and just try to give, especially with the Malzahar pickup here, looking for something that can neutralize lane and enable that Viego to get that first reset and really start snowballing later team fights, as well as giving Jackson the counter pick, because Blake has quite the champion pool to whip out something to make your day really bad as the enemy top laner.
True. I also am not discounting the fact that this could just be a Mumu top. Blake has been known to play solo lane of Mumu. We could see that coming out here. I know Stanley does not have a lot of experience in this Malzahar pickup, at least to my knowledge. I could be completely wrong on this, and it could be like his Giga Pocket pick or something, but not like the super comfort we'd expect from him. I was expecting more of a control mage style, whereas Malzahar is kind of lacking in that like turbo long range that most control mages have. Lux is a pretty good matchup into it, and I think it's either Zach's most played champion or pretty damn close to it. I will check right now. It is his highest mastery champion, so it's pretty big. And then we talked about the Yone earlier for Blake. Him picking this up gives him a lot of agency and ability to kind of carry the game. So we'll have to see if he's able to win his lane.
And picking Yone, generally Yone is not a blind pickable champ, but having a lot of confidence, especially into Jackson. We see the Renekton, which I know Blake is not a fan of. Especially
he hates way many more champions than Renekton. Like, Renekton is not as tanky as someone he hates. I remember the first time Jackson played Renekton on Summoner's Rift was in a Scrims game. He bought the champion and then played it for the first time on Summoner's Rift and won. One of Renekton's best matchups is this Yone. I think this is a pretty straightforward counter, but Blake tends to play pretty reserved, so he should just be able to kind of space this matchup out. We will have to see though. Obviously, if Jackson's able to get some kills in lane, it goes really south really quickly for him. So we'll have to see.
And I think that especially Janley's comp is pretty good in the sense that they're looking to get a pick on someone. Renekton enables that, Malzahar enables that, and being able to get that first pick to get Viego snowballing the team fight, and having Soraka to actually keep Viego alive throughout the whole game, or throughout the whole fight, is going to be extremely impactful in whether or not they can actually, win those fights over objectives. But I think that their theme is pretty good. In response, we do have a very long range comp, and the one frontliner they have in a Mumu, or the one kind of thematic frontliner they have in a Mumu, is someone that shouldn't die too easily, as long as he's building tank and keeping up in farm, as well in ganks, to make sure that he can actually hit his items on time and doesn't get rolled over by the Viego.
Yeah. I am just concerned about the Yone lock-in after the Malzahar is picked out, just because he's going to be very vulnerable to the suppression. The good news is for Yone is that his E will rip him back automatically, so if Blake's able to play around that well, it shouldn't really be an issue, but something to look out for sure. But this Ezreal, Lux, Nami are just never going to get into Malzahar's range, so it'll be pretty annoying for them to play it out. And the amount of shielding and healing you have on the Lux Nami combo is going to make it hard for Jake to burst people down with the Twitch.
Exactly. I think it's going to come down to if one of the carries, either Lux or Ezreal or Nami, end up base checking a bush and they get a pick, suddenly their DPS and overall damage goes down a lot in a fight. So if they're able to get that first pick and someone positions poorly, that's going to mean a very difficult fight. But I think in a straight 5v5, I think that Janley's animal control has a lot less of a good time because they don't really have the comp to straight up 5v5. They need to take those kind of awkward number fights and get a pick early to really make their comp work.
Yeah, hard to agree with that. That's like the typical downfall of like heavily pick comps. Just gonna swap back over. We can look at some player highlights generated based off the champs that were picked. Look at the records. We do have 3 first-time champs this game. Jake and Jacob have not played these champions in scrims before. Chimmy has not played a Mumu in scrims before. Layla and Blake's scorelines for Clawseted Furries look great. Pretty good KDAs and a good win record for that Yone. Jackson's played their Renekton once. He kind of perma-split, but we did end up winning that game. And is 5-3 on the Viego. It was an absolute menace last season. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep that up. It really depends on kind of how good Viego is scaling into the, durability patch meta. And also, like, there's the huge changes with the new dragon and like, the Terrell Cryo stuff, so we'll kind of have to see how that goes. Stanley has played Malzahar once and lost. I honestly completely forget that game. Just for the culture, I'll kind of check back and see if I can find more info about the Malzahar game and the Lux game that these 2 players have.
It'll be interesting though. I think that, especially with the dragon changes, being able to pick things that can kind of perma get mid prio is going to be super impactful. Lux with the R on such a low cooldown, and Malzahar with all of the built-in lane push will be interesting to see how. Yeah, well, especially in late game, it's just as Lux, you just start R-ing waves from other lanes just to make sure everything's pushing. But it will definitely be interesting to see how they prioritize Dragon and which team can really start snowballing the Drakes towards a soul.
True. Looks like Zach's Lux game was versus us last time when we had Lilia and Trisk, so don't think we need to talk about that one too much. Then I will load Stanley's Malzahar game. That was versus... Oh, I remember this game. I beat Peter in lane as Fiora into his Irelia, and then we lost the game because Miles got like a quadra kill or something. That was a game for sure. It was just Graves went 12-2, you lose the game. Hate to see it. Stanley actually did perform pretty well in that game, despite the odds being stacked against him. So we could see a good Malzahar game here, and I honestly feel the same way about Zach's Lux. So even though these stat lines aren't looking pretty good, I have a lot of confidence in these picks from these players, so we'll have to see how the lane goes. Into the player matchups, only one of these pairs of players has played each other before, and it is Jackson and Blake. Jackson is undefeated against Blake in the top lane in scrims. We'll see if he can keep this up. This is just a really funny stat line. Both of them have like a 1.9 KD in this matchup. I don't even know what's going on, but certainly going to be interesting. And then we'll pull up the champ matchups as the last little thing. And there's no data for anything. Well, now the good news is there's now going to be data for all these matchups. Just while this is pulled up, we can talk about our personal thoughts on how these lanes are going to go. Obviously, Renekton Yone super Renekton favored. Amumu Viego, I think, is slightly Amumu favored, but you were talking before how the Viego has that potential to outgank and outfarm and kind of make the Amumu irrelevant. I think we talked about Lux slightly having a good matchup in the Malzahar, as well as that wave clear stuff we were talking about. What are your thoughts on the Ezreal Nami into Twitch Soraka?
I think that, Twitch Soraka, especially if they can play the Soraka lane correctly and be able to trade, Soraka's mana for Ezreal's health, is going to be super important. I think that it's going to be mostly a farming lane for both of them, and seeing who can out DPS towards the end. I think that Ezreal is a significantly harder champ to play later on in the game, just to get, all of the DPS that Ezreal offers takes significantly more actions per minute and a lot more APM than Twitch.
You could
I
just
am
say skill, man. It's okay. Twitch is an easy champion, and Ezreal
Yeah,
is really
exactly.
hard. We can just say it. We don't need to be indirect about it.
I am personally a Twitch enjoyer. I do enjoy a right click session every once in a while. Um, but I do think that, especially, into the Ezreal Lux, as long as they don't get one shot, um, having the Soraka is going to be extremely impactful because they are going to be able to heal up uh, later, through the fight. However, Lux, especially if Lux gets ahead and starts getting, Luden, Shadow Flame, Deathcap, it is possible the Soraka healing will not matter. They will just get one shot on repeat if they get hit by a binding. However, Malzahar does have the spell shield to help deal with that
True.
a little. So it will also
Unfortunately,
be interesting
unlike
to see.
Morgana, he can't spell shield this team. Very sad. So he's only able to save
Correct.
himself from mindlessly walking into Lux queues. No one else.
Yeah, and it does have a cooldown on it, so it's definitely something that they, as if they start playing around Malzahar's spell shield, uh, they are still Stanley is still going to be very vulnerable later on in the game. It will be interesting to see what they do level one though, as Closeted Furries does have a Moo Lux, so they have a pretty wicked level one as far as being able to, stun lock someone or root someone and get a quick kill. Um, Ezreal does also have a pretty good level one, being able to, follow with his Qs rather than a flash to be able to keep sums in bot lane. But we'll see how it goes. It depends on whether or not people are, sleeping when they're supposed to be watching the, watching
Five
lane
points
or
or whatever. Yeah, depends on the setups we see. For sure. I know there's a big one that's been happening a lot in like LEC and LPL where you just send 5 people into the top bush just for like the culture, try and get a cheese out. I don't think Scrim's meta's really caught on to that yet. No offense to us Scrim players, we might not be as good as the LPL. I hate to admit it, but I think another thing to look for in the support position is Nami is going to be so much easier to play this game than Soraka is. Soraka has to position really, really well because um, any healing that she does, so basically her HP bar is essentially worth double her HP bar, if you kind of think about it that way. So any skill shot she eats from Ezreal or Lux is basically dealing double damage to her team, if you think about it that way. I know Jacob does like to get the Warmogs, so that could kind of mitigate um, that, but that's not going to
that's not
be
going to
until
be
like third
until,
item. So
yeah.
uh,
And
could just
especially
be
3,000 extra gold on a support is not something you come by easily.
yeah.
But it will also be nice, having the Soraka being able to influence other lanes and having that ulti for, pretty early on, as soon as she hits level 6, being able to, influence a jungle fight or Rift Herald without having to rotate to make sure that her Twitch is staying safe. It is something that we may see have a pretty big impact on snowballing the game one way or the other.
Yep. Hard agree on that one. Alright, it should go up shortly. Just waiting for the game to load in. Spectator delay has caught up here. Don't worry, my league client is great. Small indie company, all that. Alright, give a quick peek at the mastery. Never mind, I was too slow. Hate to see it. I have loaded into the game before the teams have loaded into the game, so we get a little bit of the black screen right now. Very unfortunate. Maybe I should pick up what the good regions do on their stream and simply wait to show the game until we're already in, but I don't know. Maybe next time. That seems a bit high production quality for us, you know? Someone on one of these teams has an absolute toaster. Like, come on, man. Why are we still waiting for this? Okay, we are finally in game. Big, 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 big. Get this chat on screen. And game border should be up. Excellent. Stream quality is there. Jacob with the absolute insane APM, only champion that has items. That means my scoreboard's broken. Perfect. Okay. We fixed the frozen scoreboard. Everything should be fully operational. Instead of sending 5 people in the top bush, they're sending 5 people into the mid bush. Stanley may have been able to spot this out, but honestly, I'm not sure. Zach walks up aggressively. They see Jacob here. He's able to hit the binding. His team is not able to follow up. We hit an Ezreal Q though. He doesn't have tier or first strike, so we're not getting additional value out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to see that they had the Lux walk up solo rather than trying to combo that with the Mumu. I think that it would have been significantly more deadly if they were full stacked and actually walking as 5 into the bush to try to get damage onto them.
I agree. If Zach had walked up as quickly, we could have seen an Amumu Q come out or something, made a bigger play. I know Amumu typically doesn't start Q for his clear, so he might just not have had it and had, like, you know, wanted to avoid the situation. A huge deep ward here. I believe that was from Jackson. Could have also been Anne. I know both of them are pretty good at kind of like playing around vision. But
trying to make sure that they, yeah, exactly. Trying to make sure that they know where the other jungler starts, so that they understand where, you know, they need to be careful of scuttles and when they can get targeted. Both of them starting on opposite sides, so probably looking just to trade scuttles here in about a minute and a half or so. However, Viego does farm a little bit faster than Amumu, if I'm not mistaken. So he may be, they may be looking for a double scuttle here to try to punish the support or the tank there.
Could be big. Honestly, I think we probably could have expected these starts. Chimmy wanting to play towards punishing that Soraka in the early game, and with the Viego probably just trying to snowball the Renekton. Like, you pick Renekton and you don't just like hard gank that champion. I kind of don't know what you're doing. Maybe that's like a hot take, but they got 2 like hyper scaling lanes, and you got the Renekton that you want to absolutely juice up.
Exactly. And looking at the jungle too, Anne is now, I think Anne may have, I don't think they canceled their Raptors, but about on pace with the Amumu actually. So we may be able to, you know, see some fight as they try to figure out whether or not the enemy jungler has taken it.
Stanley actually made a huge play in the mid lane. I just want to bring that up real quick. He did force the exhaust out of Zach. I don't know if it was necessary. It seemed like the exhaust was more of a forces the Malzahar to back off, or else he has skill threat. But Blake should probably just win this because Jackson took a tower shot. But Blake has been known to play this Yone pretty conservatively and not go for too much. I wonder if there's a pause here or simply just league being league. We'll hop back a little bit. You know, kind of trying to figure out what's happening here. To watch this again.
And in that trade too, Jackson didn't hold the empowered W until after Yone had the shield. So the shield, you know, being chewed through fully there, giving the Yone more health.
Sure.
There's also Blake also took Fleet into this matchup, so definitely sacrificing some DPS for a safer laning phase.
Looks like Garrett played a bit more aggressively than Timmy was hoping he would there. Blake should just be able to kill there. Nope, he takes the flash. Blake is playing this so slowly. He knows that if he like messes up and takes too many risks into the Renekton, it could go poorly for him. So he's playing it really slow and just to get that passive lead. Flash also forced out of Stanley, so neither solo laner on Janley Animal Control has their flash. So that means it is just basically free for Chimmy to start ganking those solo lanes.
Exactly, and I think that, you know, especially playing into Malzahar and Renekton, if the Amumu can, you know, kind of leave bot lane alone except for Drake's.
Oh, big flash coming in, and should just get his kill on Deluxe here. Yeah, that's first blood over to the Viego.
That is not what you want to see as the Clawseted Furries. But having that exhaust blown earlier definitely, you know, gave that gain kill threat. Otherwise, there's no way the Viego actually has enough damage to kill Lux.
True. It does also mean that all 3 of the topside flashes are expended from Janley, so this should just be a free Rift Herald for Clawseted Furries. Because if Janley tries to commit into it, they'll probably just lose the fight because they don't have their flashes. Looks like they're finishing out in the mid lane. Shimmy could be looking for a play here. It's going to be tough to spell shield. There is also a play happening to the top side. Blake might be in a horrible position here. Has the flash, the Ignite for flash trade coming out. Blake is very low HP, but should just be able to walk down into that top side jungle and get out. But that's going to be very hard for him to deal with because he's down about 10 CS and he's probably going to have to burn the TP here. All the top lanes on their spells are just gone. A lot of action happening up there. That Lux ulti this early in the game does a lot of damage.
Yes, it does, and it's not going to be not as short of a cooldown as it is, but I think it's almost already a quarter of the way back up. So if they do start to fight the Drake, we should still have a Lux ulti back up.
True. I mean, that is the advantage of having like one of these artillery mages have a like lower cooldown ulti. I know Ziggs has that. Xerath seems a bit longer, but the amount of just like poke and just straight up damage you have if you're able to hit it is pretty good for these fights as our objectives. Silico kind of showed that when he played the Xerath into Clawseted Furries in their last series. Oh, I realized that I am trolling with the scoreboard again. League definitely has no bugs in their client. Here we go. Now the items are updated. Blake is actually keeping even in CS. He hasn't had 11 CS at 7 minutes. And mid lane is a lot. Pretty even as well. So the farm is pretty even across the board, but Ezreal's also about 10 CS.
Which is generally what you see from an Ezreal.
Yeah.
Especially the Twitch being so short range without the ulti. I would be actually pretty surprised if Twitch was keeping up. But only being 10 CS down and no kills is still going to be pretty, put him in a good spot to have some kill threat at level 6.
And speaking of level 6, Amumu hit level 6, so we could see a big play here. Anna's been sitting top for so long here. The sun comes down, they're CC chaining Blake, but he just gets to dash out, and he still had ulti. If you are sitting that long in that top river, it is going to feel so bad when you do not get that kill. So many resources committed. Chitty now sees Anna just walk on top of them. Blake gets the sun under tower. Amumu ulti should come out here. This is huge! Chimmy played that super well. That's just going to be a double kill for Chimmy.
And the patience waiting there in that
yes.
Tribush and being able to actually get the counter gank off, knowing that the Viego is looking to dive there. Great play by Chimmy there. And now the Amumu with a lot of gold is going to be unkillable for a lot of these champions. So very well played there.
Yes, Ezra also doing a great job of basically trying to force Jake out of lane. Jacob can just use the Soraka abilities to heal him up, so it's not that big of a deal, but should at least give them some Dragon Prio. We'll see if they actually translate it into that. Both of the early game objectives are up. Neither team seems making any plays towards them, but yeah, the jugglers just are spending all their time sitting in bushes in the top lane, apparently, so is what it is.
It is also a Cloud Drake. Cloud Drake is very heavily buffed on this patch.
Yeah, it's got the biggest buff out of all the Drakes.
And it is definitely one that, especially, into, certain comps, being able to have that extra speed is going to be extremely impactful.
Slow resist into Lux is, like, absolutely absurd, and when Malzahar gets the Rylai's, both teams actually need this Cloud Drag more than they know, I think.
Exactly, and Nami too being able to give that slow on everybody's abilities it will feel a lot nicer to have the slow resist.
Yeah,
which I think Clawseted Furries may be looking to get the Drake here.
Yeah, it looks like maybe, but they're being really slow about it. Blake is healing up off the Gromp. Anne is going for the Rift Herald, so we should just see the trade respected here. Blake has his ulti back up, so could make a play here. We'll see if he goes for it. He should just be able to pick this up. Yeah. Oh, the Soraka ulti comes down. Looks like there's going to be a dive happening with Rift Herald. Blake might be able to outplay this.
But without the ulti, not having as much damage is going to...
Okay.
The 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, they might get tower for this, but Blake is just playing this really well. Shimmy does a great job of interrupting the Malzahar ulti, and Zach is able to pick up the kill onto Stanley. Yeah, I think this is some of the inexperience from Stanley on this champion kind of showing. He assumes he can just press the suppress button and he just gets a kill or wins, but he had no one to follow up on the suppression, and he did have an Amumu sitting right next to him to cancel it, so...
Exactly, and Amumu having the Q to close the distance and pop the spell shield, and then having the ulti to cancel is also super helpful.
Yeah, that interaction with Amumu is actually super favorable to him. You don't get the Q, but you you don't get the stun off the Q, but you still get the tether, which is probably honestly more important on the Malzahar specifically.
Mm-hmm. And especially into Lux, I think later on in the game, Malzahar is going to continue to have some struggles being so short range. It doesn't take... Unlike Mundo, Malzahar's CC or Malzahar's spell shield gets popped by any damage. So even just getting hit by an E and not a Q, like we see there, the spell shield is gone. And it makes it extremely more prone to being ganked, especially later on.
Yep. The gold lead here isn't actually atrocious. It's only about 600. That is because Janley has the only 4 plates taken across the entire map. Rift Herald getting some value out there, but keep in mind the buff dragon is in Clawseted Furries' pockets, so that gold lead is probably not fully representative of the difference between these two teams. This tower is incredibly low though, so Blake might just get dove again, but Viega's playing towards bot side, so he should be safe for a while. I think he has enough CC that he should be able to CC lock the Renekton if he goes for a dive, but we'll have to test that here, and the minions could honestly just take it.
Renekton is running Demolition too, but in order to pop that, he does need to actually stay underneath the turret, which might be all the Yone needs in order to get the trade back kill.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, honestly, all you gotta do is auto it twice. You do not need to demolish the fully stack. And I believe was able to just steal that away. The Nami is actually rotating up here to help. Oh, it hits the bubble, and Zach gets the kill across the map. And does the blabber play in Scrims? There's no way. Does not flash for it, but does burn this way. It was just, I had to say. Exactly. Shimmy hits the blind Q over the wall and just murders the Soraka. He might die to Twitch, but he has a flash. He's just out. Shimmy has been playing this game like an absolute beast.
Yeah, just being in the right place at the right time and recognizing when people are out of lane and where they're looking to go has been really good in both the counter gank top and that play there. Just knowing where they want to be is super important.
Yeah. Shimmy has been doing this well pretty consistently in a lot of his games, specifically in that series versus Silicats. But they kind of fell apart later on in the game. But I think their team fighting comp should be good enough here that we shouldn't see that happen in this game too. So let's see if Clawseted Furries will be able to continue to push their lead this time instead of falling victim to tick comp like they did last time.
Exactly, and here we do see the Lux getting an ulti again, and the ulti going on quite the low cooldown.
Yeah. So Blake is just trading a kill for a turret. That turret was going to fall anyway, and I believe it fell after plates, so it was actually pretty big. Layla has been playing this super well. Her bubbles have been pristine this game. Don't want to say teaching Jacob how to play as champion, but you could kind of say that.
Giving a taste of his own
Does
medicine.
Shimmy hit it? Aw, Shimmy barely misses it. And then Zach misses the Q. Wait, Shimmy hits this one though. And it forces out the Soraka ult. I think Blake dies here. Flashes, but probably will lose against Anne because of the... Okay. Anne decides to
Viego
blow
has to
flash
blow
there.
flash.
I don't know if he had to. He could have just charged the W and gone for it. Shimmy's looking for another kill under the Soraka. He does not know that the Twitch is there. Gets a flash.
Rock the flash.
So that's Soraka and Viego flash down right before a dragon. That is just objectively awful for Janley.
And especially with the completed Sunfire here, Amumu does deal a lot of damage to this Drake.
Yeah, the one
And they
concern
also
that I
have the-
here is Garrett's low mana, but he seems to be ignoring the honey fruit that would solve his problem. But he seems to have enough
Yes,
to heal, so I guess it doesn't matter. Ezreal just has a lot of mana in general. He actually doesn't have the tier. It'll be interesting to see if he's not going for mana mune in this thing, or if he's just deciding the late tier is fine because of how fast Ezreal stacks tier.
True. And now we, in addition, we're starting to see a little bit of a bigger CS lead from the Ezreal, now having 30 CS from the 10 that he had earlier. It just the continued pressure from the Amumu having to give up waves as Twitch. Because Ezreal has that longer range and Amumu has that kind of constant pick
Blake
pressure.
has ult here. He should be fine. They were able to trade another Rift Herald for the other dragon. This should just be a dead Renekton because of that ulti. Yeah, I think Blake overstayed there a little bit because he wasn't sure that Lux had the ult, I would have to guess. Shimmy getting a lot done here. This Yone E seems illegally long. That just seems
He was
odd.
rooted in place, so he was kind of locked in there for a little bit.
Yeah. Zach does a good job hitting the blast
And
plant.
being
It's another
forced to
blast plant. This should just be a kill. Yep. And Garrett's able to pick up the kill here. Does
And
just
is
pick up
being
the tier
outplayed
late.
by Flora.
Yeah. And there's that Lux ult on the wave. Stanley just simply packs up his bags and leaves. Or maybe not because he has this rocket to help him out, but... Goldie
But
is
this
actually
Lux
staying
ulti
pretty
is-
close. The shutdowns in that fight were huge. I think on both Amumu and maybe Blake had one. I don't remember.
Yep. I know that Stanley was able to pick up, I believe it was 600 gold from the Yone kill, which was, I think it was Yone, was super big.
Yep.
There is still some more gold left for Janley's animal control to pick up, though. Having that 350 gold shutdown on the Lux is going to be super important, but they don't really have the, unless they can get a Twitch can go hunting, it's going to be difficult for them to actually find that pick.
Yeah, I mean, Viego was really close. I think maybe those blast cones not being there could be a huge thing, but we'll kind of have to see. I also think I'm just like perma-gapped. Like every time I am like streaming a game, people are just buying tier like 20 minutes into the game. Like it is actually unavoidable. If I'm casting a game, the tier is not being purchased before 15 minutes. I think actually on Ezreal it is like not a big deal. On some of the tanks where you build it for the early game mana issues to go away, I think you know, maybe something you want to change. That obviously not happening in this game, so I digress. Blake might be getting a solo kill here. He's waiting for the W to expire and chooses not to go for it. I don't think they had vision on Viego. He could have been scared of another play there. Zach hits the root and just keeps a kill. We were talking about this before. You said that Zach is going to have a fun time just blowing people at the blocks, and Garrett gets a kill over the wall. This is kind of just gross to watch.
Yeah, the Lux especially, once you hit 1Q, suddenly your ulti is on a, I think it's a 30 or 40 second cooldown at the moment. It's just extremely difficult to, get counterplay until you get, at least for Twitch, getting a Wit's End. Doesn't feel too bad, but on Malzahar,
they spot out the Renekton on the buff. Blake does not have ulti, so he probably won't be able to finish this. They're pretty close though.
Renekton does have to blow ulti, which is going to get rid of some of the individual kill threat that he does have, though.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the whole flash, but having the ulti down, and I think it's going to be tough for him to get to Dragon in time. 3 Drakes going over to Clawseted Furries this early in the game is going to be rough to play into. Kind of puts Janley on the back foot for the rest of the game. This Rift Herald does come down. It's close to the time the Drake spawned. I think it's probably just running out of time in the inventory, so they can't hold it until like the perfect drop time for the Drake, but getting mid-prio before the Dragon is always good. Stanley is quite low. You might be able to see him get killed. The Ezreal comes down and hits 2. That's actually huge. And forces a flash. The Cleanse comes down. Oh my god, Flash and Mumu ult hits 2. The Suppression comes down onto a Mumu but doesn't kill him because he's tanky.
And this is
Zach
where the
with a blind
Amumu
ult and hits Malzahar. Shimmy is going to die here, but if you are Clawseted Furries, you take this trade every day. This is huge for them. They should just be able to walk down and pick up the Infernal Drag here. Blake's getting a bit greedy, but that's a 3-for-1.
And this Infernal Drake is going to be, especially if they got Soul, is going to be horrible for Janley's animal control. They're not going to be able to stop the, Lux one-shotting people on repeat.
Nami.
Yeah, and it's even helpful on the Amumu. If the Amumu can find a, pick on someone, is Amumu a boy or a girl?
I believe
or just
it's a boy.
Okay.
I think it's a
yeah. Yeah. So if the towel can find somebody by themselves, and they have the Infernal ulti, the Infernal Dragon, it actually feels really bad as the enemy team because Amumu's going to be so tanky, and to have that extra damage is just going to be very difficult to deal with.
True. Yeah, this is a pretty doomed position for Janley. I think at this point, if I'm being honest, their goal should simply be hold their mental for the next game and hope that they can pick blue side and actually do something in draft and get power picks instead of losing to red side debuff for this season. But I think a big thing in these best of threes, especially for some of the less experienced players, which luckily for Janley is really just Jake here, I think, is just being able to maintain that mental across multiple games, because that's definitely a skill that you need to develop over the course of multiple BO3s. It's a completely different format than a best of one because of the kind of mental and drafting adaptation across the games.
Exactly, and I think that it's also pretty big to understand where, if they can actually look at this game and understand where things started to go wrong and how giga outranged they've been. I think that's going to be a big thing for next game if they can find something that at least matches range.
Obviously we can't write this game off completely yet. Game is not over. Looking a bit doomered, but things can change. I think this Viego could be huge. We could get some resets, and game could completely flip on its head. We want to see some contests around this next dragon, though. Scared of
and I think
up the side lane, or not actually. He's backing for the Baron call. Here is a fight that could go similar to what I was talking to. Zach is suppressed right away. He gets healed up. The Nami wave kind of bailing him out. Hits, I believe, all 5 there. Huge value. Zach is not low enough that he's out of the fight. All he needs to do is just hit an ulti on somebody, and it's like he never took any damage to begin with. And now he's on 2 people, and it's just kind of doomed. They took long enough that Garrett was able to just get right back in the fight. This could be a Baron angle for Clawseted here. I saw a ping come down. They might have just been trying to hunt the Malzahar, but it looks like they're not starting up the Baron.
Yeah, and especially as they
could be a play, but Stanley's ult is not back up. Anna's right here. Garrett sidesteps that perfectly. It gets so much damage down to Anna, and Anna just has to walk back out.
Especially once Amumu gets Demonic Embrace, the Baron call is going to be a big issue for Janley not being able to step up. But they were trying to, Janley's animal control was really trying to play around what we were talking about earlier
using the Malzahar ulti to get a pick onto someone. Unfortunately, they didn't have quite enough damage to get a pick onto the Lux, but they're really trying to play around their win cons of finding that pick wherever they can.
Yeah. Something else that I'm noticing now, there's going to be some pretty free Randuin's itemization for both Amumu and Blake this game, because we have 3 Borks.
Oh my goodness, there are 3 ports.
And I believe, actually, neither of them seem to be building Pit except for Twitch, but you can honestly just go like Frozen Heart or something, and you're just kind of nerfing 3 other champions pretty hard with that debuff. Anne is walking up to clear Vision 1 minute before this dragon. They have Vision on Jackson. I'm not sure if he knows that or not. Blake should just be able to pick him up here. The Lux ulti should just be able to finish off this kill. They hold it, but burn Yone ulti. And the Malzahar ability is able to pop the shield bow. I feel like
that is actually
call
pretty
it
big.
I have the instinct to call it, but I don't know. Chibi just walks forward, forces the flash out of Soraka again. I think Jacob just doesn't get that flash this game. Chibi has been like a dead eye on that. Zach's in a really bad position here. He doesn't have a flash from last game, but he's able to just get walked out by Nanami and goes in and just is not able to do anything. The left shield in Nanami heals too much, and they just move forward. That's a clean ace, 5 for 0, and this is going to secure them the soul. Honestly, considering you're allowed to FF game 1, this might be an FF angle. Or actually,
I think that their itemization actually played a huge role where they were able to find the pick, but because Viego does have the Frostfire Gauntlet, Frostfire Gauntlet instead of any of the damage mythics, they weren't quite able to... He did survive a little bit longer, but they weren't quite able to find that pick that they were looking for.
Yeah, okay, see, I know our lovely jungler is at work right now, but when he goes back and watches that VOD, he is going to cry. He will hate this itemization from Anne with a passion. Blake might be able to ult here. Wait, why did Jackson go in? Blake just needs to ult. Jackson just came to him. Oh my gosh. Yeah, anyway.
Both of these top laners' Borks are dealing quite a lot of damage.
Yes. I'll check the numbers. We got 2k damage for Renekton, 2.5k for Viego, 1.1k for Twitch, and 2.7k for Viego. So I think he's winning the Bork war. And actually, now that I think about it, Thornmail is probably the better Bork counter than Randuin's or the ice one. Frozen Heart. There we go. Brain a bit AFK here. This Infernal Soul is going to be an absolute nightmare to fight into. And I figure I should insert it in there. Anne does not need to FF games. They have Monk Mental. They were telling me about it yesterday. They cannot be tilted.
Of course, of course.
This is why they build Bork Frostfire and don't tilt themselves by looking at this.
They will not be tilted.
Our jungler could never. They would look at their own build if this is their build and tilt. And Monk Mental. Too strong. I don't know. I think this draft could potentially be like a result of some of these players being newer. So we leave up like this Ezreal and the Nami and the Lux that are all like super comfort picks for their respective players. Like honestly, Lux is probably a way better ban than Misfortune Mid. Misfortune Mid is a bad champion. I honestly think Zach probably knows it's a bad champion. But you know, they banned that instead of Lux, which is his highest mastery champion, and he gets it, and he kind of shows him why you should probably take it away from him. Blake is allowed to play a champion. He has a lot of history on in scrims in this game. The 100th game buff is certainly doing things. His early game was kind of rough just because of that counter pick, but now he's sitting pretty. 536 has a 550 shutdown on his head. He's got a 60 CS lead. Garrett now actually does pick up that turret that we were looking at earlier, so that's like another 550 gold into his back pocket. He's just gonna go for another solo bolo. He is up 3 levels. I do not see a world in which Jackson gets out here. Blake might not even have to ult for this. Yeah, he absolutely does not.
The E
The
bonus
shippo is
damage.
popped, though. Yep.
That is.
Timmy's able to pop his Belcher with the E, gets Stanley's splash out, and now Blake ults buffers through the suppress. No shot, he does that.
As someone who does play a little bit of Malzahar, Yone is horrible to play into because both the R and the E are just absolutely horrible. When it comes to trying to R
Blake just stole the
Yone,
red.
he is living in their head
Blake
rent
could be
free at the
pocketing
moment.
up the hundreds. I guess in the future, because we have a delay. He knows he needs to pop off. Oh my gosh. That was disgusting. Flashes, picks up the Nami.
Oh
This
my,
is like
he is.
a butchering. Like, I feel bad watching this.
And it is definitely interesting, kind of going back to draft, seeing the cryo that's put on the Nami. I definitely think that, Clawseted Furries have been able to kind of play through the Nami. With the early rotation to the scuttle that
Oh yeah,
Mumu
definitely.
killed Diego. Or I think it was actually Lux ulti that sniped it. But,
Yeah, but
it's
that
been...
bubble meant a lot. So.
Exactly. And I think that, both teams being able to play the Nami, it'll be interesting to see if we actually see some more prio put on it and a ban.
Yone is
There we
going
go.
for that one.
As Malzahar, there was
Jimmy
so
goes
many...
in with the flash. Oh, Ant's going for the reset. They did get a kill, but weren't able to reset off of it. This game is so rough for Janley.
And
It's
a
good.
triple kill for the Ezreal to end it, too. That is
That was nice.
no
Honestly,
deaths from the bot lane, either.
It's really nice to see Clawseted Furries bounce back from 2 series losses in a row and start off this series with that game. That is ridiculous. Huge plays to them. I guess now we get to pick the MVP for this game. I think there's 2 big candidates that I have in mind. I just want to see if you're thinking the same that I am.
I personally, I think, for the culture, I think Blake definitely is up there. It being his 100th game and all, and being able to help contribute to the win. But I do think that Chimmy just being in the right place at the right time the whole game, as well as Zach having plenty of snipes.
Last 2 are the ones I was looking at. I feel like Chimmy was able to affect all 3 lanes pretty early, but that Lux just the mid game was just dominated by Lux. Also, look at that 21 KDA. Ooh, I don't know.
Exactly. I think it's, in my opinion, it would go to Zach. I think there were so many fights where it's like where there's a skirmish happening and then suddenly the Lux laser appears and the fight is just over.
Yeah.
Even if there wasn't a kill based on it, dealing so much damage just through that was absolutely huge.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That was pretty good for them. I think MVP to Zach makes sense. Chimmy definitely deserves a huge shout out for the early game pressure he was able to exert there, but I don't know if his MVP level. Mason seems unhappy, but you built Frostfire and said I don't like having fun. That's pretty fair. Can you show the damage graph? Yes, I will show the damage graph. Oh wait, actually you can't on custom games that you spectate. It literally breaks. I'll show the post game real quick though. Alright, I will have the post game set up. I am going to update the games real quick. So we have updated graphics for the next one. If you just want to kind of talk about what went wrong for Janley in that game and how you think that they can best improve for the next one. That would be awesome.
I definitely think that the Twitch is a really strong champion. I just don't think that it really their draft, although it was kind of super pick reliant, not being able to find those picks and in the end just kind of being not really as cohesive, and trying to get those picks and just being overall outranged was pretty bad, and just would feel really bad to play. The Twitch in the end, even though Twitch did hit the Bork Krakenslayer power spike, it was just too late by the time they did hit that. It's really the Twitch Soraka. You don't really have that early game fighting that you really want as Twitch. Twitch, especially if you go, Flash Ghost is something that we could see from Twitch as a way of having an extreme pressure early game of just trying to, or Flash Ignite, just trying to make sure that you get solo kills. I think that if you don't get solo kills as Twitch and you aren't able to kind of solo hunt or hunt with a Yuumi on you, it does feel pretty bad to play this champion. Him having pretty low damage overall because you can only, when you're not on the offensive as Twitch, the game feels pretty bad. However, we do see, kind of looking at the damage charts, Ezreal didn't have too much damage at the end of the game, mostly because they didn't have a team fight. However, having that perfect KDA from the bot lane is something that is going to give them a lot of confidence going into game number 2. 7-0-10 on the Ezreal and 0-0-20 on the Nami are things that you definitely want to see as your, the top side looking at your bot lane that they did not die once. I think that, especially with the way that dragons are on this patch, and maybe looking to put some more pressure on their bot lane to generate drag prio. Otherwise, like we saw in that game, getting behind on Soul and then losing Infernal, getting behind on your Drake count and then losing Infernal Soul was just absolutely devastating.
Yeah, that was for sure the nail in the coffin there. They had any sense beforehand, it certainly went away there.
Yeah, exactly. But being able to play more through bot lane than top lane, especially on this patch, I think is incredibly powerful. It will be interesting to see what time the first Drake gets taken, because I think this game it was somewhere around minute 8 or 9. So Drake was up for a few minutes rather than trying to rush it as soon as it was available, because they did trade Herald for Drake. And unfortunately, that early gold onto the Renekton wasn't enough to actually snowball and get them through the end of the game, because they couldn't really push that advantage as much as they wanted to, mostly because Amumu was there to counter gank and be able to, get a double kill off the dive. It was absolutely monumental from the Amumu to kind of stop the bleeding of top lane and allow Blake the opportunity to actually play as champ.
True. Yeah, that one play right at the beginning of the game was like absolutely huge. I'm trying to pull up the next player highlight. Hopefully it will highlight some of the other game. Actually, no, everyone is so cracked with their champions that they all remain the same. So nothing super new here. Worth noting that the side select did change. We were talking about that during the game, actually. Is a good way to win the game. Blue side is super, super strong here. So getting that better side select is definitely huge. Apparently I've probably screwed up in my code somewhere, because Stanley should be listed at having more games than this. Maybe it simply didn't load fast enough or something. I don't know. I was trying to be slick with it. We will have to see. But Zach also showing up. These are just going to be the same highlights that we had before. And the matchup, yeah, okay. So the game did not load correctly. Potentially bad on my part, but It's a new system. We're testing it out. You did not just see the old Scrims awards. That wouldn't have happened. Don't know why anyone would have thought that. I will grab the new draft link so we don't look at the old one. People are typing in chat so much that it is quite hard to get, actually. But okay, so we should be good to watch the next draft. What adaptations do you think they're going to make into this draft to help them come back from this deficit? Oh, you are muted. Never mind. So it'll be interesting. They're probably going to try to have to first pick a new champion. We will have to see. Getting that Nami early could be big, but keep in mind, Clawseted Furries is no longer under that ban penalty, so they might just be able to grab it, or I guess ban it away so they don't have to deal with it. Could be interesting to see what happens. GP is still definitely not going to be on the table. Be interesting to see if we have the Udyr banned away again as well. Not entirely sure. Could
We do also
see. Oh, good.
Oh, I was gonna say, Ants Diana again. Not allowing them to play it is super big. A champion that does actually get rewarded for going a random tank mythic, unlike Viego. So not being able to have that, tank mythic, synergy is a little bit tough.
True. I think Sivir is what we need to watch here. Because it got banned on red side last game. I think some people in the server think the read on that is just grab it B1 every game that you possibly can. I don't know if JAC or Stanley play it, so we'll see if that even happens, and it'll be interesting to see if Furries ban it. I don't think they will, because I know Blake thinks that champ sucks, so I think it'll probably come out banned here, unless Janley is going to try and pick it. If they don't ban Sivir, it's almost definitely getting first picked. The Ezreal gets banned instead, so it is also possible that they just think that the Ezreal is worse to deal with. We'll have to see.
Udyr is also banned again. Again, trying to target Chimmy's champ pool. There is a Sivir open. Are we going to see it?
Yeah, I mean, the question
No.
is, like... Oh, the
Nope,
Nami
we
first
see
pick.
that.
Duh, that one was obvious. It's, interesting to me that they choose to ban the Zillion instead of the Nami, because as soon as that's left up against first pick, they could be trading for Sivir here. That is something that you could do. You can leave up 2 highly contested picks and then just grab whichever one you want out of it. Or Layla could just be confident in this Karma versus Nami matchup. I really want to see a Sivir here. Yes, okay,
And
this is huge. The Sivir plus Karma is going to be so fast, and the rest of your team is going to be so fast. Something I actually hadn't been thinking about this series is Seraphine just got left up. Seraphine just fell through draft last game. Not sure why that one managed to happen, but it simply did. Maybe no teams were planning on having it available just because it's been banned so many times, but this could mean that Stanley is going back into the bot lane. But I think the Kayn lock-in doesn't mean that anymore. This Kayn lock is almost definitely like tempting Chimmy to play a Mumu or JAC again, because I think both those champions do not do super well into red game. But we'll kind of have to see.
Exactly, and I think that Seraphine is one of those champs that is absolutely impressive to deal with, and even though if you build full damage on Seraphine, you heal for a bunch. Oh, we see Jarvan as a way to maybe punish the Seraphine.
Yeah, that's another champion that I feel like kind of doesn't do great into Kayn, but he at least is picking it into Kayn willingly instead of getting like trapped into picking it, so I trust him enough to know what he's doing. Or I trust that he knows what he's doing. That's what I meant to say.
I definitely think that Kayn is probably going, especially once Kayn gets formed, probably wins all 1v1s. But playing Jarvan to have that massive teamfight presence, especially with Karma Sivir, is I think what they're going for here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what is going on with my code, because looks like the database is updated correctly, but the new games are not showing up. Oh, okay. I just need to use a private browser. That is the solution here. So I will fix it. Coding genius, resident Scrims programmer, or something. Not trying to gas myself up too much, so just throw a slash S on everything I just said. Yone and Silas banned away from Blake. Those champions are so strong, he could probably blind pick either of those right here, because he just blind picked the Yone last game, and it worked out great for him. Jackson Bellbear banned away from Jackson. Now we are actually focusing all 4 bans on the top side. That's really smart for Clawseted Furries here, because we don't know which lane the Seraphine's going into. So banning the one lane that the Seraphine isn't going to go into is huge. Very smart.
They do pick up the Lux again,
Yeah,
which is something
I was
that
gonna
had
say, why was that allowed?
really good. Yeah, I definitely think that trying to shut down Blake is an important part of the game, or important part of the draft, but still leaving the Lux up is going to be tough.
For sure.
We do.
Maybe they have a better matchup into it now. I don't know if Seraphine or Swain really either of them do well into it. I want to say they don't. We get Wukong picked here. It's not Wukong jungle. I feel like it's not as strong if you're not doing that. And Blake just gets to pick whatever he wants into it. This is just pretty rough all around, honestly.
We did see with the JAC ban from Clawseted Furries, they may have been looking towards something like a Kale. I know that. Oh no, it's just kidding. They're flipped. Never mind. I know Jackson does.
Orn! Blake picking a tank. He hits 100 games and completely flips the script on us.
He has become what he swore to destroy.
Champion. Exactly. Blake on Orn duty. I mean, it is great here. You're buffing. I mean, Jarvan, whatever. But you got scaling carries in the Lux and Sivir. And Karma with an upgraded support item is not something to scoff at either. That champion is going to be so strong. You do have like a Giga team fight comp on Janley, but you kind of have the same thing on Clawseted, but they also have that extra like poke to them. So if they're able to play team fights slow, it is over for Janley. The one thing that I would worry about is that Ornalt getting blown a bit too early sometimes. Could force the engage before the poke has been sufficiently dealt out, but I don't know. I think this game is going to be way more fun to watch, just because both teams want to do the exact same thing. So we're going to see 5v5 team fights over and over and over again. This is going to be quite hype. I hope. Don't want to jinx it or anything, but okay. Here we go. Key matchup is now Jacob and Layla. It's changed because of that last match. The matchup stats: 1 win, 1 loss for Layla, and 0 wins, 1 loss for Jacob. We got that infinity KDA on the Nami. This seems to be Clawseted Furries' specialty. They hit these infinite KDAs right in your face, and what are you gonna do about it? You simply can't kill them. Now I can pull up the other player highlights, which should be updated. Shimmy is the highlighted player for Clawseted Furries now. He's got 8 games played, 50-50 win rate, 3.61 KD, and only 3 champions played so far. About to add another one to that list.
And this is now doubling the champ pool for Jimmy and Scrims. So,
True.
Love to see it.
Yes. And now we see Jackson here as the other featured player. We have games played, 19, win rate 52.6%, KDA 1.19. Which is pretty low, but he does have that like split push play style where he just hard splits and really likes trading those off.
Especially when he does get the volley bear going full AP and just absolutely smacking turrets.
Yeah,
normally trading his life for a tier 2 is pretty worth it, his book.
Yeah, I mean this hole is the champions he just loves to split on. The Wukong I think is the one I've seen the least of. I think he probably played in some games I wasn't watching, so I do not have as familiar of a grasp on that. Just look at the champs. I know these won't matter anymore. Chimmy's swapped over to the Amumu 1-0 on it. Everything else appears to be pretty much the same. We're not missing much here. I'm going to head back up to the draft. We can kind of talk about team comps and stuff, and I will get the new assets once our players have locked in their champions. To kind of look at these matchup stats, which we may or may not get to actually do anything with, but
I think that especially if I were to pick a team that I wanted to be on, it would probably be Clawseted Furries. One, they have Sivir, which I think this champion is giga broken at the moment. Um, just being so fast and having that karma to be able to buff you up is huge, as well as getting the ornament late game is going to be extremely impactful in being able to shred through the enemy team. I do think though that Wukong is extremely strong right now. However, I think that Wukong's main strength comes from being able to clear the jungle super effectively. So seeing the Wukong top will be interesting. However, I do think that having especially once you get Sunder, having that damage and healing, as well as the armor shred from Q to be able to fight the Ornn, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But like we saw last game, Blake is really good at being able to, play lanes conservatively, keep his health high to make sure he can outplay dives. And I think that it is definitely something that on the Ornn you can do with both your W and E, being able to have that unstoppable and knock up, similar to Set, being able to have a lot of actual being able to do a lot of things whenever you get dove, to have a lot of counterplay is super important.
That is very fair. I agree with the take that I would rather be on Clawseted Furry's side, but this Seraphine and Swing Champions are just kind of busted. And Jacob is now back on his comfort, so I think that could kind of sway it a little bit. We'll have to see how it pans out, though. It looks like we forgot to check what the bans were last game. I think they're banning Chimmy on the side of Janley, which is actually pretty funny considering Chimmy is the reason that the game got delayed. Very unfortunate. Actually, both teams are banning Chimmy. Understandable. Pretty funny that both teams decided to gentleman to it.
Nice. I think that he definitely was super impactful.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that Amumu being able to pick that scaling link and actually scale up with it, and getting those early kills was super important. I think it is on Jarvan something that's extremely easy to do. You get those early ganks start blowing.
Alright, my Discord has just crashed.
Hello?
Hello, my Discord just, nuked itself. I think, this might be... I'm tempted to say this is a league issue, as it kind of always is. My league client is, gonzo. Yeah, my league client just, bricked itself. So we should be able to get back into the game at some point. Something small indie company. This one is for sure not my fault, I promise. Alright. It has logged me out of League of Legends, even though I have stay signed in checked in. That is interesting for sure. Good thing is, we'd have to wait for spectator delay anyway, so this shouldn't actually be that much of a pain.
Yeah. And I definitely think it'll be interesting again this game, to see if Jacob is allowed to have his flash for any meaningful amount of time. It was something Jimmy was blowing the flash basically permanently on the Amumu, constantly threatening with the Q, and I think that Jarvan has that same sort of pressure with an EQ. That combo will be absolutely deadly, especially after level 6, to get the Nami into the arena and not be able to leave without flash. We could see a lot of big picks from that end.
True. I am attempting to load back in. My lead client is frozen again. Maybe? It appears to be somewhat working now. I'm not able to select anyone. I'm just going to try and close a few apps out and see if that fixes anything. I think it's just an L on League's end here. something right games face your client. Oh, this is the new bug that whenever you open up League, it opens up the other instance of League under it and then breaks it. Okay, cool. We should be in game shortly. We'll have to see how long it will take. Shouldn't take too long. We do have Jacob typing in chat. I wonder if they're gonna do me a solid and throw a pause, but we'll kind of have to see. While we're waiting for my League client to boot back up, we can go over the player highlights in game. We can go to records real quick. Chimmy appears to be the only person first timing his champ this game. Jackson is 0-2 on the Wukong. Blake is 0-1 on the Ornn. I believe that was actually mid lane into Lucian though, so I think we can maybe not really factor that into his top lane performance. Garrett is 2-0 on the Sivir with a 7 KD. Layla's also 2-0. Zach has a 6.25 KD on Lux even though he's lost. Stanley is ridiculous on the Seraphine though, 4-1 with a 5 KD. It's disgusting. Anne and Jacob both on huge comfort champions, high number of games. And Jacob's played Swain once, and he won the game. I should now be getting into spectate. Yes. I'm liking the updated stats. Yeah, see, it's so cool. Programming. Okay, and we didn't miss anything. We're still in spectator delay. It's almost as if there are no technical issues at all. Player matchups is literally just going to be the game that just happened plus the 2 games in between Blake and Jackson. Garrett and Layla both have infinity KD in this matchup because they didn't die last game. Awesome stuff. Zach has a 21 KD against Stanley. Stanley's at the 0.6. This is just kind of sad to watch, but that's only because that last game was a complete stomp. Champ matchups, we have data on one matchup, and it is Jarvan versus Kayn, and it seems like it's a bit of a wipe. Jarvan has much better statistics, but personally, I think Kayn is a little bit favored here, so I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. Anyway, spectator delay is over. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do what I said last time. We're going to do a Gigabrain production quality and not
Just wait until they're
right.
not.
Wait until it works.
Wait until the
then
champions are
try.
actually loaded in.
Right. So we can just recap the draft real quick. Wukong versus Ornn top lane. All this stuff is actually... Wait. Okay, I've been gigabaited. Okay. Anne is playing Swain mid. Jake is playing Kayn jungle. And Stanley is playing Seraphine Nami bot lane. So... That doesn't change a lot. The Seraphine Nami is a lane that I believe Stanley and Jacob have played before. I don't know. Generally, those two players are just very, very safe when they play with each other. It's kind of hard to punish them because they're just super consistent, play back, play to scale super hard, and don't really go for anything aggressive. Unfortunately, for them, that strategy is going to lose potency when the team that you are playing into... okay, well now it's not picking up... Oh, here we go, okay, cool. So that strategy loses its power when the team that you're playing into, it has a Sivir and Karma and just wants to scale anyway. So you're playing Stanley at an off roll where he is maybe... Okay, never mind. We got a level 1 shenanigans. Jacob's dead here, right? There's no way he lives. Yep.
And it goes onto the Sivir too. That is absolutely huge.
That is mental damage. You guys are so... He is so mad. He is absolutely fuming. Oh my gosh. Played enough games with that guy to know that that statement means his mental is absolutely gone out the wall. Hate to see it. That is 600 gold onto Clawseted Furries to start off this game. But
and
anyway,
we also
as I was
see
saying, Stanley on his off roll is not usually as good as applying pressure in lane as some of the other ADCs in the server, so he usually ends up down 30 or 40 CS, but because of his playstyle, it tends to not matter. But when Sivir is closer to her 300, 400 CS win condition, whatever we want to call it, that kind of just spells doom. So we'll have to see how it goes. And League is a great game. Has no issues, I promise. ideally, no more technical issues will be happening for the rest of the game. Maybe they throw a pause. I know Jacob was typing. Yeah, this appears to be a bit of a pause. Hopefully, it won't be for too long, but we can just kind of chill out here. Okay, pause is already over. We're all good. Nothing to worry about.
And we do also see that both Karma and Ornn are running the First Strike tech. It is actually pretty interesting to see First Strike on Ornn just absolutely kind of losing the lane presence of Grasp and instead preferring to go for something a little bit more scaling oriented.
True. I honestly have no real explanation for why First Strike is what he goes for. Maybe he misclicked on the spellbook. I know it's meta and just flashes into a wall, and I think they die for this. Yep.
The level 2 Jarvan gank, absolutely.
Yeah,
Kind of textbook, really.
It's just sad to see that because Anne would have been fine if that flash went over the wall. I think this has got to just be some tilt from the Frostfire Gauntlet discussion after the first game. I feel like maybe their Monk Mental saved them through the game, but did not save them from Mason being summoned into chat to discuss Viego builds. I don't know. Oh, I'm bugged again. Here we go. Now people actually have CS. I swear, I feel like League recently, like, spectator and client bugs specifically, it's like, you take out one and then it's like 8 more show up. Like, it has been worse than usual.
True.
Maybe I'm wrong, but this seems particularly atrocious.
No, you're definitely right. We always have the CS bug is like really common.
Right. I don't know.
Scoreboard.
What causes that? Like, I feel like they should be able to fix it. Especially because, like on broadcast and like LCS and LCK, like this happens as well. You'd think
Not that they can't fix it, they just don't care.
I'm just saying you'd think they'd care, especially with like worlds and playoffs in the regions coming up. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like as a company, right, games would want to make sure that they fix all sort of like spectator bugs. Okay, Blake getting extra true damage there, almost nets him to kill. Jackson has to burn Flash. Blake again holding Flash. I feel like he could have definitely gotten a kill, but he's simply choosing to play these lanes pretty slow and gain a CS advantage instead of like all-inning.
Oh my god.
Then he goes mid again, and just gonna die again.
That's so sad.
Something monk mental, I guess. Teddy, do you want to take over the cast from me?
Like
so
permanently?
No, just for a bit while you're here.
Sure, I probably can.
All right.
Are you leaving?
No, I'm just gonna mute you and Michael can take over. I'll do some observer stuff or something.
Sure. We got the Seraphine Nami bot lane. I'm no longer a fan of Seraphine. She got nerfed really hard. I think she's not so great right now. But I know that Janley is really good at Mage's bots, so makes sense.
Yeah. And speaking of bot laners that did get nerfed, Sivir did actually get nerfed today. That update did come out on the client earlier.
Oh, what is your win rate now? I'm curious. I'm gonna check it.
It is it is probably a little bit early to get any meaningful win rate changes. But I do know that the R is on the lower cool.
And it's still like 50, still 51%, which is pretty good. Oh, Jin is back. Okay. Jin is back. Twitch is good. Oh, why is Kog'Maw win rate low? That's weird. It was like really high last. Maybe it's because people picked Kog'Maw to.
Alright, Teddy, I'm booting you. You're talking about patch notes. There's a top lane fight. You guys said nothing about it.
Yeah, Jackson is able to turn the gank around to get a 1v2 kill.
That was a huge play. And we're talking about Jin being back. The kill goes down in the mid lane. Oh my god.
I only care about the bot lane.
Oh, this is the issue. Alright.
Oh,
So we'll hop back. We'll get a replay of the kill mid. It looks like it's just a pretty straightforward solo kill. Let's speed up a little bit. We'll watch Zach POV on this. while all the top lane shenanigans are coming down. Here goes the fight, hits the E, chunks Ann down to about half. I believe he's probably going to hit 6 pretty soon. He's about halfway there. He might just get the kill without it. Oh, he hits the E, hits the auto, drops the exhaust.
Oh my goodness, he went exhaust. That's
He
interesting.
went exhaust
I mean,
last game too, and then there we go. Hits the
unlocked.
level up actually off the solo kill. Slightly different than what
I'm not a fan of exhaust on Lux. I feel like if you're ever in range to exhaust, you're like dead. I guess there's a Kane on the enemy team.
I mean, into Swain, if you just want to make it so Swain can't keep up with your team, it kind of counters the ghost too. No?
I would just go ignite or TP. I like TP those, but
Yeah, I mean,
also
Zax's
exhaust
using
like you.
exhaust a
like,
lot,
I would
think
just
he's
like
just
that.
comfortable with it.
I would just let Karma go exhaust. Force the support to be your bitch.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been working out though. Using the exhaust in the first gank to make sure that Jarvan was able to land the EQ, and then not being able.
Oh my goodness, is that first strike on Karma? First
Also, first strike on Ornn. The first strike on Ornn is
Yeah,
up.
that's not actually too bad though. I've seen it before because like Ornn doesn't have he doesn't have a specific one. Like most people go the one where you change the summoner souls every other.
Right, Silva.
Yeah, I like first strike, honestly.
Alright, Blake might be able to clutch this kill out. Yes? Nice.
Ooh,
That was really
played.
well played by Blake. He certainly knows the one Ornn combo that exists. Which is kind of all you need to know.
Guys, I ordered cake on my DoorDash and it didn't come. I'm very sad. Is Wegmans like an East Coast thing?
I believe so.
I might go down and see if they have. Sivir farming up nicely as Sivir does. Oh, wait. Ornn has like double CS at the top lane. Interesting. Wait, what just happened? Wait, that was so weird. Wait, did you guys both leave the call?
Lux is off to a 2-0-2 start early on, which is pretty good. 56 CS, decent lead. Ann is 0-3-0. Hate to see it. I think something about them being bullied off their main role or something might have some more logic to it than just them being good at jungle. Definitely getting exploited with their lack of knowledge in the role compared to that jungle role. JAC is taking heavy advantage of it, whereas I feel like Stanley was at least able to play pretty neutral in the early game, and now Stanley is also suffering. It seems like he's way more comfortable with the AD carry role, or way more comfortable with the mid role than he is the
AD
role.
carry. The bot lane beat.
Okay, Shimmy hits a great
Oh,
ulti.
nice start.
Jacob flashes out of it. Shimmy's probably going to die for this. Sivir is almost able to pick up the kill onto Jacob. This root might be enough to save Layla, but it looks like maybe not. The flash should be enough, though. Kane picked up a bunch of orbs for that, and also picked up 2 tower shots, but manages to not die. Blake is so close to getting this kill. He does have ulti, so it looks like he's probably just going to go for it. Unfortunately, does miss it, but you got to respect the hustle there.
It was pretty close, especially Wukong into.
Oh, there. Okay, there we go.
The flash solo kill on the Ornn.
I mean,
Absolutely.
He heard us talking, I guess. You know, like.
Yeah, and especially Ornn into Wukong. Wukong's passive does give him a lot of regen and armor. But having that percent health magic damage is a lot is pretty good into Wukong as opposed to most of the other AD top laners.
Yep. Also, when Ornn kills you, Ornn like bursts you like 100 to 0. So
True,
that
true.
sustain is like also not super helpful here.
Exactly, but similar to when Wukong blew his flash, or when Ornn blew Wukong's flash, just not having that same kind of trading pattern where you just permanently win whenever you have an extended fight, like when Wukong was against Jarvan. Just having that passive stacked is just so huge.
Yeah.
And on the earlier bot lane play too, we also saw kind of the strength of Janley's team into Clawseted Furries, especially the Jarvan. Having that Nami and Seraphine ult to disengage, especially when Jarvan's locked in the arena, it is definitely something to limit the Jarvan's agency, especially when they're actually in the
Okay, and actually hits a double root here. It looks like Zach and Chimmy might both die here. That was actually a huge play. Garrett is ulting out here. They might be able to turn this fight though. Karma getting a lot of damage down. Is actually hit by the root and ignited, so she might die. Garrett's playing a bit farther back than he might have to. Stanley goes for the flash, but actually misses his skill shot regardless. Oh my gosh, they're both
That was nearly
probably
a
like double digit. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like Janley's definitely bouncing back more in this game than they did in the previous game. This like Kane Swain thing they got going on is pretty good, and Jackson's managing to like mitigate its obvious deficit better than I feel like most would be able to in that situation.
And the Swain Jarvan interaction was actually really interesting. Chimmy went for an EQ to get out of Swain's ultimate, but Swain actually the E2 pull
made it so that the EQ wasn't actually in range to get the mobility.
So it looked like he just missed his flag and drag combo, but it was actually the Swain very clutchly pulling right at the correct time.
That makes sense.
This Ornn is also now bullying the Wukong off the wave.
Yeah.
Or
he might be able to get that. Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, because he knows which one's the real one because the brittle marks on it.
Yeah. But Wukong now being 2 full levels down, as well as 50 CS in a bruiser into tank matchup feels
Yeah,
pretty
it's
bad.
quite unfortunate. Zach gets a lot of burst there. Isn't able to do anything. Jake's just kind of floundering in the mid lane, and Chimmy's there to match him. But I think Kane has a lot more that he can be doing. More of those camps up on his side, whereas Chimmy's just kind of playing to support it. Chimmy goes over the wall. Might be able to get something onto Ann here, but chooses to just play it slow. He has ult up, and he might be trying to kind of save a play to something that'll create more of an impact into getting this Ocean Dragon. First Rift is still in Jake's inventory, but it looks like it's not going to be deployed in time to get plates unless they do it right now, which I believe is happening in the mid lane.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was
it's
just
going to be close. If they're able to kind of like body block the Herald, it is right before plates, but Ann dies trying to get local gold from it. I think at that point you just back off when the jungler's there and give all the gold to Kane. Instead of dying. But it is just an unfortunate play.
It's definitely interesting to see the Swain play into Lux.
Yep.
I'm personally not a big fan of the Swain.
I think that it kind of just loses to damage, especially since they took away the bonus health on ultimate cast. So you do have, the theoretically infinite ultimate, but you lose a lot of the tankiness that you had with old Swain.
Right. I mean, you just get bursted and die. Whereas Old Swain could survive the initial burst and then didn't do as much if he survived the initial burst, but...
And then ran out of damage partway through the fight.
Right. I feel like this iteration just kind of can't survive the initial burst most of the time, which is pretty rough. We'll see if this level 9 and level 10 versus level 12 fight goes well, but I feel like it may not for them. Blake does have the ulti up. He chooses not to force the fight. Again, sticking to his playstyle he's had the entire series. He's at basically 10 CS per minute here, and that is all he cares about. He flashed for that kill earlier, but that one was pretty much a guarantee. Now it is 3 people top. He is trying to get out. The ult might come down here, but it seems like he might just realize he's dead and he holds as much as possible. Because of his huge farm lead, though, that is an 800 gold bounty claim to the game.
He was
Layla
also
runs in,
3
Sivir
of
ult
them.
comes down. Jimmy might be able to get something, but Stanley and Jacob intelligently just kind of back up. While Zach's able to punish the Swain roam up top and grab the mid turret. This should pretty directly translate into a dragon. It looks like Zach is kind of playing gatekeeper, so if they go up to contest the dragon, he should just be able to pop him. Apparently the top lane tower is very interesting. We'll see if Jax is able to pick it up or not. The binding narrowly misses Stanley. Kane is nowhere near this dragon to contest it, but they slid down the dragon take, so they might be able to do something here. I think they're trying to pull the dragon, but they don't seem coordinated to do it. Oh my gosh, Stanley just gets basically one shot there. Layla with a great follow-up with the Karma Monster Q to take it. And throw out a W as an attempt to take it, but they didn't quite get it. Blake getting some pings down on second Rift. They could look to contest this game. I know they didn't in the previous game, but they have a pretty sizable lead at this point, about 4,000 gold.
And Rift Herald also giving that extra bonus gold. They can funnel that onto, if they choose, they can funnel that onto someone where they want more gold, whether that's one of their carries or even onto the Ornn to make him even more unkillable. It'll be interesting to see what they do here if they do, actually contest the second Rift.
I know.
It is also.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it is also interesting to see the itemization from the Ornn. One, the early Warden's Mail to help counter Wukong, and then also being able to understand that you have the Frostfire Gauntlet, or I think it's actually Rime Forged Gauntlet when it's upgraded.
Yeah.
Into all of these, into the Swain, Seraphine, and Nami, who you really want to be able to stick onto.
Right.
Was pretty good itemization.
Yeah, if you
And knowing that
going for the Sunfire there, you'll do a lot of damage if you get on them, but you just kind of won't.
Exactly.
Be able to get on top of them. Clawseted Furries macro has been really good, especially kind of around the jungle play. I know that's a weakness that they've had in the past, where the jungler wouldn't be playing towards the lanes that they need to be, but Shimmy has basically not come top at all except for that one play, which is exactly what you need with an Ornn. He is now obviously to kind of counter the Kane. Blake should be able to get the kill on the Wukong here. Oh. The snipe also narrowly misses. That is flashes from both members. Timmy's still going. He gets the ult down onto the Kane. And here to kind of back this up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. It's kind of too little too late. They need to hit an actual 1v3 in order to win this. They're getting way closer to it than they should be, though. Aren't quite able to pick it up, I don't think. But this should just be nothing given to either team. Actually, they want to just stay in Anne's ultimate forever, apparently. Never let it end. That's the second Lux ulti this fight, actually.
Not walking away!
Oh my goodness. How long has Anne's ult been up for, guys? Why are we not ending it?
Oh my god, the champion is the
goodness. Yeah, the champion is not good. They simply let the ult go for like 40 seconds straight. Like
This champion has no bonus health. Oh my
They
goodness.
could have just walked away. Oh my god. Okay, screw what I was saying before. We send German top again, and it goes terribly. Let's stop doing this. You have an insanely strong mid matchup, and you have a super strong bot lane, and then we continue to fight the champions that get stronger the longer you fight, and then lose to them. Oh my god, man.
Oh my god, I have 19 kills.
Layla's doing a great job of holding the wave here, but she might die for it. It is pretty close. That Leandre's spread might be enough. Garrett is going in really quickly. Chooses not to try and keep autoing that Nami and just disengages. That's probably the smart move here.
Jackson trying to be a pest in Jarvan's jungle. He is actually even in items against the Jarvan, even though Ornn is now, 2 and. Okay, he has 3 different components that don't build into the same
Yeah,
item.
we're shopping. Let's go.
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see when the 3rd item comes in, and which of the components he chooses to upgrade. So
I would hope it's going to be Force of Nature.
yeah, I definitely
also,
think
another thing to look
the-
at is he has an ornament available. It would be interesting to see who he gives it to. I think it should either be Lux or Sivir. I am not sure which is better though, because I think Sivir's going to get more use out of it throughout the game, but I think Lux is farther ahead right now. Blake is walking into the team. I'm not sure if he's super aware of it. He definitely is now. He still has the ultimate. They should be able to counter engage this though, because oh my gosh, that pull was perfectly timed to interrupt it. Huge props to answer that play, and the double charm. Flashes over the wall and is not enough to save him. This team fight is huge.
the Ornn still has not.
Here.
The Ornn still has not died though, in spite of all 5 members hitting him.
Yeah, that
But
was
this
a
is-
huge Seraphine ultimate. Definitely saved that fight.
And this is actually Janley's first Drake of the series, coming 7 Drakes in.
Garrett might be dead here. The knockup hits, but spell shields the Swain root. And is able to outplay the Wukong.
Yeah,
The
this
ramped
also-
up tower shot was simply just enough damage to kill him.
Wukong also E'd onto a minion instead of Sivir.
That is unfortunate. Good catch.
So losing that engage time was pretty big there too.
Karma might be able to mantra eat him in there, but it seems like Garrett just wants to get out of there. Probably reasonably so. Swain is pinging his cooldowns. He may be able to go in and start something, but I don't know. Looks like the map is just kind of resetting back to where it was. I still strongly favor Clawseted Furries in this game, but if they continue to play the team fights the way that they have been, I will soon change my mind on that. They have a pretty decent gold lead, and Ornn is adding even more to that we can't really see directly. That's enough to upgrade the Lux's item as well. We'll see if that's what he goes for. Yeah, he's doing it right now. So ornaments on all 3 laners. And this should just be an easy 5v dive. Let's see how long the Swain ultimate stays up for this time. 3-man charm, but it's on the 2 tanks under tower, so it shouldn't matter that much.
With the stopwatch
Shimmy and
too.
Blake are both able to get out of the Swain ulti, but Blake is pulled back in. So he actually does extend it a little bit. That is only a 1-for-1, and they pick up the support out of all people. This Swain is probably proving to be more problematic than they had assumed he would be. They're trying to get all up in their face with the Jarvan and Ornn, and that's just allowing Swain to keep it super extended. The Karma, Sivir, and Lux are able to outrange pretty well, but if those 2 frontliners just stay right next to the Swain, it makes this game really, really hard for Clawseted Furries to play.
There is also a fully stacked Dark Seal for the Swain too. That 3v1 earlier definitely helped, as well as the being able to survive the dive. It'll be interesting to see if we see the Cursed Book come out. I would hope not. I think Medjai's is a pretty troll item to build, especially when there's this much damage on the enemy team.
Yeah, I also feel like as soon as Clawseted Furries realizes how they need to play around Swain, they'll probably just kill Swain a bunch of times and the game might end. It's just more of a question of do they come to the correct conclusion on how to play around it.
Just use Sivir to disengage.
Right. Or Karma Mantra E. Or Shirelia's. They have a lot of options. They're just simply not using any of them.
Yeah, these team fights shouldn't be that hard, to be honest. Oh, Lucian.
Alright, Shimmy is on, and I don't know why you would want
Now
to
they
take
just
this.
need to walk
Flash is
away.
out. Okay, so they burned the Swain ulti.
Which
Before
is good.
a
Unfortunately,
potential Baron. It will be back up in time for Dragon. I don't know if they know that or not. They might think it's a longer timer, in which case that play is super not worth it, because you burned a Jarvan flash for it. I'd like to see a rotation onto Baron here from Clawseted Furries, but it seems like they're just trying to get the Swain out before Drag, and they did not succeed in that, despite what they may think.
interesting. They're actually giving the red buff to Swain. If I'm not mistaken, is that what happened?
That looks like it, yeah.
Which
They might
is
just think
interesting.
their success rides on the back of the Swain, which may very well be true. I think it also is nice to let the Swain kind of like try and auto people to slow them down, but I don't know. I feel like we're kind of stretching it at this point. But the health regen over long-term fights will be nice. But,
I definitely think that Kane being 5-1 and 3, I think that a lot of their damage actually rests on the Kane and being able to kind of do the funny haha red Kane things.
for what it's worth, Swain was farming mid for a very long time there. Maybe too long, because now they are not set up preemptively for drag, and now they have to walk into the enemy team. Blake gets hit by the pull.
There is
does
also
not do
completed.
anything to him.
Yeah, there's also a completed Force of Nature for
That
the Ornn.
And the Wukong is just gone. They definitely did their job with getting picked. Blake just walks into the entire team, gets a knockup on the two of them. This could
I think
be
with
big.
Force of
That buffer was insane. Okay, here's the Swain ulti. Flashes in, is able to pull in Karma, but looks like they're trying to get out. But Blake is still letting him extend it. And now Garrett's pulled in. They've boxed Swain in, but they're literally just trapping themselves in a way that allows Swain to keep extending that ultimate.
And now with the
Like,
oh my goodness.
they might be able to get it here. No? Oh my god.
And even though Ornn isn't dying, just extending the ultimate is just absolutely huge for them to allow
It's
this.
ludicrous
Swain
that
to-
Ornn lives here, by the way. That
Yeah.
Nami ability looked quite funny as well. Okay, they really could have won that fight, but they blow a bunch of flashes on some of their crucial members to get away from the Swain ultimate, and then they Jarvan cage their entire team in with the Swain ultimate. I don't know.
It'll be interesting though to see how they try to actually adjust. Hopefully,
Hopefully, yes.
seeing that, yeah, hopefully they adjust. Seeing that the Ornn, trying to just have Ornn frontline isn't really going to work. They really need every single person to disengage.
Zach ulting
Lux
to get the
ulting
blue
for
buff there, yeah. Huge.
the ultimate is I think on a 30-second cooldown or 35-second cooldown.
I'll check.
I think by once Lux gets level
26
16,
seconds.
26 seconds, and that's without level 16. It
Oh,
will.
that's gonna be disgusting. It's gonna be like 20 seconds, like tops.
Yeah. And it is also
That's
interesting that Lux went for the Horizon Focus as opposed to either a Death Cap second or a.
Yeah. They're looking for
Shadow
a on the
Flame?
Wukong here. This could be big. Honestly, what I'm hoping is that the okay, so the Jarvan ultimate comes down, which means that they can't use it on the Swain, which is good. They need to, and now they're screwed. They have definitely committed too hard for this. Oh, actually, double kill goes over to Zach. But this Swain is just getting to do Swain things. Garrett's got out of range, but this is just quite unfortunate.
And the Swain the Swain being allowed to pop R and then just sit on top of people until Conqueror is fully stacked and just nuke people with E's and W's feels pretty bad as Clawseted Furries.
Yeah.
That you just really aren't able to play the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and try and catch the double kill from Lux. Looks like she just walks down and just, oh, that is, oh my god! That is ridiculous. Yeah. And then, you know.
Swain doing Swain.
And got like a free ticket into like their entire team there, which makes it pretty hard for them to play the game out. But I don't know. That pick on Wukong would have been good if they stopped when that flash got burned. But when they kept chasing, the Kayn, Swain, you know, double up is allowed to just kind of roam down onto them and cause some problems.
Exactly, and having this sort of low range comp that they have champions that want to do the same thing, right? And I think that that's important, that kind of as a comp you understand what your champions are trying to do. Like Ornn wants to frontline, but unfortunately into Swain you can't really frontline. You actually damage your team by doing that.
Yeah, I was hoping that Blake would have upgraded the Shurelias onto the Karma, because I think Karma has way more utility in this game than the Jarvan does. But we'll see if they're able to actually get a pick on the Wukong here. I don't think it's worth going for. Again, I think if you can get the Jarvan wall down, that's a TP. There we go. He attempts to TP.
I thought he was going to get
the
out
Jarvan
too.
ulti, I think it knocks up or something. So that could actually be huge. Ornn ulti is still up. They just need to make sure that they're saving their cooldowns to use them defensively to kite away from the Swain.
Swain will have R and Ghost up though, for whenever they fight next. So it is going to be a difficult fight for them.
22 seconds and 36 seconds are these ultimate cooldowns. Both disgusting, by the way. And that Medjai's has come out. So we'll see if that gets anything. Blake has just kind of walked into this. They might be able to catch him out, but again, he should just be able to walk away. Best case scenario for Clawseted Furries is that Swain ults to try and get him, and then it runs out. But
it is also interesting to note that Ornn has actually sold the Warden's Mail, basically saying that Wukong is not going to be an issue for him, and instead opting to upgrade the Thorn Mail and buying another MR item after that.
Yeah. He gave an advanced skill code on this Swain's going to be huge. Oh, that should just be a dead Seraphine. Yep. Huge plays by JAC. We continue to leave the Alex up. I don't know what the reasoning there was. Anne is actually playing the Swain pretty well, but I don't think that has anything to do with like the lane of the matchup. I think Swain's just a pretty good champion. Probably should have banned that one out. I know we were talking about that before the first game, but looks like this is just going to be a Baron call. Swain should be able to get vision of it, but Kayn is super far down. They simply let Swain hit that on them. I guess they didn't care and they're just trying to burn it. JAC is going to try and play defense on this. I'll kind of zoom out a little bit. So you can see Anne there, they throw another W down, but that should just be the Baron picked up.
And especially now that Sivir has hit the 260 farm, has 3 full items plus the
mortal components, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Plus the upgraded Kraken Slayer too.
True.
The Baron just does not stand a chance.
Yeah, so
also the
Clawseted Furries is positioning for a counter engage on this dragon here. Anne appears to be somewhat caught out. Anne has ultimate, they're looking to get the burst down.
They
Layla's
also have stopwatch.
JAC is a pick. Layla is dead. Timmy and Blake are on top of the Swain. Swain is healing a bunch of people.
Now,
Are they run out here? Swain ulti runs out, but Garrett is dead, so it might not matter. The Lux is still up, and this is going to be something that they really need to worry about. They got vision of the Swain. Lux ulti, Lux ulti. It has not been used. I think he can. Okay, they're going for the more guaranteed kill, but that ulti was not actually necessary for that kill. I was hoping that Lux would go for the Swain. Blake appears to be trying to go for this. Anne is actually going to get that ultimate back up sooner than Blake expects, probably. It's up now, and Blake will likely not be able to get this.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, even when they had the Lux ulti, Swain had so many ghost resets
Right.
that he was running around at Mach 10 and probably would have been able to dodge the Lux ulti even if they were able to get it onto him.
Unfortunate that Garrett wasn't able to kite out from that swing ulti. And ended up staying in it for a bit too long.
Exactly, and I think that Clawseted Furries, they actually did have an opportunity where it was pretty free for them to win the game, or win that fight at least. Once the Swain ulti did run out, they do have a 30-second window where the game is playable for them, and the fight is pretty winnable, but unfortunately Sivir walked up in range of both Swain and Kane, and that's just a dead Sivir there.
Right. It feels like Clawseted Furries is adapting to it. It may be too late. This Swain is full build with a 25 stack Magi's. As soon as you lose those stacks, you just sell it by a decap and you have essentially the same build. You do miss out on that 10% movement speed, which is pretty huge, so they might choose to keep it. The 10% movement speed with the Ghost makes Swain basically impossible to get away from, especially with the Rylai's, but Clawseted Furries does seem to at least realize that their angle to win the game is to stay away from Swain at all costs. I think if they start playing more of a split composition, or like a split map, that could help, but it's also tough because they don't really have anyone that can split. Ornn can, but he'll just get run down by that whole team. Looks like there could be another fight. Ornn is not there though, so Clawseted Furries is probably not going to want to take this. Huge Lux Burst coming down, takes away half the Swing's HP. Swain is just going to kill this all back up though. Sivir wave clear is coming in super clutch. And JAC is looking for another pick, does not have the ult up yet. Jarvan Fire for Vision, helping spot some of this out. That only hit one, but was so close to hitting many, many more.
I think it also hit Stanley, didn't it?
That was Luden's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Blake narrowly avoids getting hit by that E. He does have the Abyssal Mask, which is huge because that's boosting Zach's damage with the Lux. The Swain Ghost is back up now, so I think they're going to look for a fight. Jackson's on the reset, but he does have a TP, so we could see a flank coming in. The Baron's going to be up in about 2 minutes, and Soul for Janley is also about to be up, so this is going to be a pretty tough scenario for Clawseted Furries to have to kind of figure out what they want to do macro-wise. It is one of the points where their team has struggled a little bit, and Janley has definitely done the opposite. They've struggled to make as many plays in the early game, but their macro has been pretty solid, so if Clawseted Furries is able to kind of pick up the slack, they should have an angle to win this game still, just because of how well their comp scales, but choosing to dedicate the correct amount of players to the correct objectives is going to be huge here.
Exactly, and it'll be interesting to see if the Ornn can actually get away from this. I think with the Rylai's and the Seraphine, it might actually be pretty difficult.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Swain ults here or not, because it could be a waste if they only get Ornn out of it, but chooses not to, which allows Ornn to get away because the Ghost and ult are still on cooldown for Am. Baron is about to spawn. Stanley's taking a reset here and doesn't have a TP, but they do not have vision of that, so they don't know. I know things are being sent in Discord, so I would suggest minimizing Discord if you don't want to see anything. We actually paused a bunch during this game, so I have no clue when the game will actually end, because we're super delayed. But just wanted to give a heads up. To avoid spoilers, I would probably close your Discord and make one.
It is actually pretty big. The Lux does have the Void Staff coming in. It doesn't have as much value here as she doesn't also have Shadow Flame to maximize on Magic Pen, but it is definitely going to be... Yeah, and it is definitely going to be a long
trading objectives here. Both committing towards the Baron, which should just sacrifice the soul. Lux was really close to sealing that. I'm surprised that they're looking for a potential team fight mid instead of going on to the Hextech track. It's a lot of damage down onto the Swain, and Blake actually is not able to follow up on that ultimate.
The Wukong
is in the back line, not getting too much done. Garrett
just
flashes
monkeying
out.
around.
That was a very, very long-range Seraphine ulti. Blake might be able to get Seraphine, is not able to pick it up. This fight is super split, and is able to pick up two.
In the stasis too.
Yeah.
And that was just not the fight that you wanted to see.
Right.
They, even though all 5 of them were involved, that Wukong being able to keep the backline off of them until Swain could actually get in there and just create time was actually huge. Even though Jackson hasn't had the best game on Wukong, even just that play of being able to make sure that their carries weren't focusing the right.
Oh my gosh, Zach is the
one shot on by the Lux, absolutely blowing up.
Oh, it's not able to get that one. The charm comes down, so that's going to be a kill back over. Layla almost is able to get that kill. I certainly respect the hustle.
That first strike damage there, almost becoming enough.
True.
And just like you were talking about earlier, even though they were able to, stop the Magi stacking, Anne just has a death cap now, and probably has just about the same amount of AP.
Yep. The one thing that I did not like there was the decision to fight at all, actually, because I feel like as Clawseted Furries, you know that those objectives are being traded. So I think you just walk down the drag, burn it as fast as possible, and just try to leave instead of taking a fight mid when they have the added combat stats from the Baron buff. This is what I was concerned about when I was talking about the macro decisions here, because that's like a pretty common late game macro decision that you have to make, where there's 2 objectives up and they're slightly staggered off of each other. And I feel like they kind of didn't really know what they were doing, because they were aware that the Baron was being taken. So you have a pretty straightforward call to make there. You either realize you're going to lose the fight and leave, or take the drag, then try to fight on top of the drag. Because that way you're guaranteeing yourself that buff for the rest of the game. But now the Hextech Soul is given up, which I think probably just dooms them. The Swain being able to slow down your entire team with Chain Lightning is pretty brutal.
Exactly, and the Chain Lightning, if I'm not mistaken, also procs Leandry's.
That got Nami Flash. Nami was concerned about getting a 1-tap at full health.
Even though she has the Negatron cloak, but that's okay. And just here not being able to walk up, especially without the Ornn, and even if Ornn does walk up, that just means it's essentially a battery for Swain.
Right.
And then Swain is not going to die for the rest
Oh
of the
my gosh.
Another one-shot by the
Lux. Nami. This fight should be very bad if Swain's allowed to do things. Swain actually does have flash for this fight. The Sivir is dead.
Swain is just dealing with
it. That's just
they don't really have enough damage. The Ornn is taking a very long time to die, but
it might
actually lives the fight. Which is insane that Ornn is allowed to do that, but unfortunately, at this point, Ornn can frontline. The issue is that frontlining against Swain actually kind of dooms your team because they get that full Conqueror stack and deals just so much damage. Are they able to take down Ornn?
Gets a kill at the end of the
Ornn
game.
gets a trade back onto the Wukong.
Alright, so we are headed into game 3. Crazy stuff.
It was a really good game from both sides.
Yeah,
I definitely think...
I think there's no shot Swain gets through next game.
Absolutely not. No way. I think that the Swain pick isn't uncounterable, and there are things they can do. It's just unfortunate that they... In that one fight where Swain was literally 3v1, they decided it was a good idea to sit on top of Swain. And from that fight on, I don't think Swain died once after that.
Oh, there was the one shot.
Oh, true. But I think that was the only time. And I think being able to actually get into your items after that, just allowing the Swain to get enough health that they don't get one shot, it was actually super huge from that point on.
Yeah. Alright, I am trying to update the stats as quickly as possible. I wonder which roles they're going to take. They're probably going to run back the one that gave them the success because Jake's Kane looked absolutely disgusting this game. I'd be like absolutely shocked if we don't see a Swain ban here. But I don't know. It honestly to me felt like it was not as much a like outplay difference, at least in the beginning of the game. It was just like one team did not know how to deal with the Swain properly, which is very unfortunate for them, but good play to Janley for drafting that champion and successfully playing the comp around it.
It was also interesting to see Blake on the Ornn. Blake did have a lot of success with it earlier in the game, being able to get multiple solo kills and generally just having an insane CS lead over the Wukong. However, later on in the game, Blake not being on something that deals a ridiculous amount of damage definitely showed, because he was able to have that front line and be that tank that they needed. It just was unfortunate that they didn't really have enough damage or follow-up into that Swain and Kane, that sort of mid-rangey comp, because Blake was on something that didn't have as much damage carry potential.
Yep. Alright, I believe they are picking up blue. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any scenario where you don't pick up blue, especially after blue's won both games so far in the series. And when it's just this strong in the meta right now, I just don't think you give it up.
It'll also be interesting to see if they leave the Sivir up, especially because Sivir wasn't too impactful that game.
Oh, I think it was sure do.
Yeah, and I think that part of it was the comp was just difficult for Sivir to play into. So I would actually like to see another.
I think with no Swain, Sivir still has a lot of value. It's just that Swain champion in particular is just quite good. I know personally, like if I were to be drafting a team, I just ban Swain regardless. Like I don't really care if the team is like a huge like Swain team or not. I just think we do not. Just like you just never want to play into that. So I think
exactly.
Maybe there's an angle to be played. I completely like typoed that. Okay, I will generate the new so we don't need to. I see nothing wrong here, man. But yeah, so draft should be starting up kind of soon. Hopefully, if you can kind of call, I'm going to be fixing my horrendous mistake, obviously. Alright, it looks like draft still hasn't started. It's supposed to have by now, for what that's worth, but... That was interesting. Okay, it will be fixed. Now, there we go. I would never break the stream. Simply could not, would not. Alright. Looks like draft has started. That Swain is banned immediately. Yep. As we
That is exactly what we wanted to see.
Yeah.
And I think there, going to damage mythic, great example of where great example of where Anne should be playing, especially on a damage carry. A damage mythic is super helpful.
Yep. Victor taken away as well. Makes sense. I'm expecting this last one to probably be Diana. Zillion makes sense as well. But we're probably going to see the first pick Nami again. I don't think there's anything better. It would be interesting to see if Janley bans Nami.
They banned the Ezreal.
Ezreal's gone. Still think that they do have other options there that are pretty good. I am not opposed to seeing the Sivir again, but I think what's likely going to happen is the Seraphine's going to get picked up here. Seraphine Soraka, Seraphine Sona could both be really irritating for Clawseted Furries to have to play into. Because it does put Stanley and Jacob back into that kind of like supportive position. Where they are allowed to just kind of play for Jake and
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they early rotate the Diana here, now that it is finally up.
I would say yes, except I think they're probably going to try and keep Anne in the mid lane, especially now that Seraphine's picked up. I think once Janley grabs Seraphine, they're almost definitely just sending Stanley into the ADC position.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I think Jake also looked very strong on the Kayn. So it is possible that we see the Kayn come out again. Exactly. Going 10-1 and 10 is a pretty good scoreline there. So I think that he's trying to repeat that performance here.
Yeah. A couple cool Scrims milestones to note. Jin is now tied for the most played champion with Nami. So Nami will pass Jin, who's been long-standing as the most played champion in Scrims, but could be cool. And this is Stanley's 100th game of Scrims, so congratulations to him. We'll see if he gets the 100-game buff. We did not just pick Zach into Kayn, did we?
Yes, they did.
Oh, no. Oh, no, man. I guess the one advantage we could think here is that Jimmy is good at this champion. He is great at making plays with Zach. The downside is Kayn just destroys that champion. It's like not even like close. So we get Zach locking into Lux early. Makes sense. It probably would have gotten banned if it got into the second round, and he's been playing it kind of out of his mind on it recently. But, oh boy. That Zach Kayn matchup is not great. We will actually get to see a lot of matchup data on that one once we move into the later graphics, because I know that one has been played a bunch. But we are apparently drafting Seraphine
the Yuumi
bot lane. I mean, the Yuumi is for sure not for the Seraphine, is for sure for the Kayn, and whatever else we get later on in the game. Okay, there's a dog in the background, I apologize. But the Yone is banned away from Blake. I'm expecting to see a Silas taken away as well. You kind of just want to get rid of it when the Seraphine's in that game. I'd expect to see some like champions that Anne plays mid that are really good with Yuumi taken away here. But the Wukong is actually banned away instead, because they won't get counterpick into it if it does get locked in, unless they're planning on picking Wukong first. My guess would be that Anne is asking for draft resources and is going to get like the last pick in the game, but they might just pick early because they know the Lux is going to be mid, so they'll just get the counter to that. We could see a Yasuo. It is a known good matchup into Lux, but I honestly don't expect that to happen. I know Silas is also one of their champions. Irelia ban is huge. Irelia Yuumi would be completely disgusting, especially with that support from the Seraphine. Good respect to Anne's champ pool in the mid lane there with that one. Not sure what the pick is going to be into the Lux. I think Yasuo would certainly be funny, but they're just going to blind Jackson's
This is
Bear.
the
So I
this
was
is
right.
the first
Anne
game it's
is
been up.
Yeah, so Anne's getting that last pick option. Blake is picking his Aatrox champion into this Battle Bear. It looks like. Definitely had this in mind for a while, I would assume. He loves the champion. There are definitely other picks you can go. I don't know if Blake plays them, but he for sure loves the Aatrox. And this is honestly, like, Aatrox can kind of just match like everything Yuumi and Seraphine have to offer because of how much he heals up. The heal cut being applied from the Yumi is going to make it tough, obviously, but if Aatrox can kind of bounce a bunch of people in the air into a Lux ultimate, into like the bouncy hit castle with Nami and Zac, that's gonna be pretty rough. It's gonna be tough for Jacob to kind of move around between his allies in this fight, just because of how much CC there is on Clawseted Furries. And we do get to see the Jhin locked in. Oh, swap solution at the exact last second. This is the exact lane that Janley, Animal Control's bot lane, loves to handle. Super aggro lanes, you simply just can't do anything into them. Because they just play so safe. The one thing I will say is if Clawseted Furries manages to get a lead this game, it is over. These champs all snowball super hard. So if they get like a significant lead, I'd probably say like, okay, Silas is huge here. Aatrox ulti is not like insane. Lucian ulti is decent. You're probably not picking it for the ultis here. You're just picking it because it's a good champ. One thing I will say about Silas is true, but don't you get a bunch of like AD off Aatrox? And I feel like they've cut Aatrox's healing off his ult in a weird way where it's not as good on Silas anymore.
I'm not sure if they cut it off the ult or they cut it off the E
and put it on
which
the
means
ult.
that the ult. Yeah, I actually have no clue.
Yeah,
I'm not an
Aatrox
player.
But okay, but also like Nami is good, Lux is like fine, and then Aatrox may or may not be good, but Silas is really good in the meta to like first pick it here, and there's no ulti on their team besides the Nami that screams out like you need a Silas to get yourself this ulti also. But
and especially this is something.
Wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say into Lux. This is something where Anne has played, or well, into the Lux. They've kind of just been getting bullied, and Silas is something where if Kayn gets onto the Lux and Silas can actually start sticking to them, it's very difficult for Lux to get a trade kill because Silas has so much healing.
Yeah, I mean the other downside is if they had picked something like the Casio or something, like that'll give you a lot of good teamfight power to kind of help out with that Yumi Seraphine thing that you already kind of got going on. But what we could see happening here is that Anne will play very aggressive on the Silas, and then Zac will reap the rewards from it. But we will just kind of see how this gets played out. I also think the Silas adds a bit of like kind of early game strength here, which will kind of help mitigate the like super early game comp from Clawseted Furries. Because if Anne picked something that was like super late game and couldn't do anything early, the potential downside could be that they simply just get rolled over by Clawseted Furries comp. Whereas I feel like Anne on the Silas can at least kind of contest that early game presence that they'll have.
Exactly. I think, especially like early game, as in like the first two scuttles, Lux should definitely get the push to have mid prio to help Zac secure the scuttles into Kayn. So Anne definitely can rotate to those. It's just going to be losing CS if that is something that happens. I know that the first game the junglers pathed away from each other, and I think the second game they also pathed away from each other.
I do not remember the second game happening.
But it'll be interesting to see if there is actually a fight. I know that Kayn is definitely going to be wanting to fight the Zac to get form, and because especially once he gets form, it's just a hard-winning fight.
Right.
But we'll see how they begin to path, and if there's any level 1 shenanigans this game. Again, Clawseted Furries do have a extremely strong level 1, being able to land Lux Root into the Nami bubble if they choose to go for it. Hopefully, I would like to see something happen where people are in the right place at the right time, and it's not just Nami walking into a tri-bush they shouldn't be walking into. But we'll see how it goes this game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Garrett and Layla are able to do what Teddy and Sam were not able to do last season and beat Stanley and Jacob with the Nami Lucian lane. They have been like historically super good into Lucian Nami and have just kind of like avoided um, any of that like early threat that people like to pose into them. Looks like uh, Blake is just banning all A's. Other team is banning OP, E, Opera. They're banning Opera. Okay, I will swap back over to the highlights. Just kind of run through all of them. Spotlight on Anne, I believe, here. 118 games played, win rate 51.7%, KDA 1.95, 31 champs, so about 4 games on each champion. And then another spotlight on Zach, win rate 44.4%, 9 games played, 4.12 KD is kind of disgusting, and 5 champions played over that span. Quick look at the highlighted matchup is going to be Chimmy versus Jake. Chimmy has a 1 KD in that last game, Jake has a 20 KD in that last game. And Jake has actually only ever played this 1 game of jungle in the server, so we'll see if the next one will be as good. The other thing to look at is here are the champs before the game to look at. Anne's most terrifying mid laner was actually considered to be this Silas. Just kind of a fun fact, I guess. So they got 2, or they actually got 3 out of the champions to watch, whereas the other team got none. Not that that like super matters, but it's just good that Janley has a lot of comfort. Yuumi and Seraphine are also pretty good comfort for their team as well. Looking at the records on these champions, Garrett is the only one first-time champion in Scrims. Layla's 2-3 with an impressive nearly 5 KD. Zach is 1-2 with a 4.3 KD, pretty solid as well. Chimmy's played 4 games to Zach, 3.5 KD. Blake has played 6 games of Aatrox and Scrims. Has not done super well on it, but definitely has some experience. Jake, that's just last game, and has 9 games of Silas and has a 1.19 KD on the pick. Stanley, adding to his previous record, 5-1, 4.83 KD. Jacob has 6 Yuumi games, 5 KD. Caveat there that it's a Yuumi, so that KD is going to be pretty high. And then Jackson with the 4-2 win rate on this Volibear all time. I believe it is his most played champion.
It'll be interesting to see Jackson on the Volibear, especially because it's something that has garnered bans up until now. So hopefully we get to see why it's banned.
True. Or it would be funny if it simply isn't good. You've been wasting a ban all that. You could have been banning Sling, but you banned Volibear and stuff. But these matchups are actually 0-1 because last time they played with this arrangement of their players, they did win. Top lane is 1-3 or 3-1 in favor of Jackson, and bot lane is 1-1 as Layla and Jacob have played support both games. Then champion matchups is the last slide. No data on Lux Silas and no data on Aatrox Volibear. This Zach Kane matchup has been played a lot. Or it's actually only been played 3 games. It feels like it's been so much more. Kane winning 2 out of those 3. The Yuumi Nami matchup looks kind of ridiculous though. It's been played 3 times. Yuumi has won every single time. And this Seraphine Lucian matchup, I believe, was finals last season. It would have been Stanley on the Seraphine. Neither of these teams are like as late game heavy as they were in the past game, so we could see like a more decisive victory for whichever team wins. I feel like if Janley comes out of the early game into the mid game either even or ahead, they're at a really strong position to kind of close out the game because it'll be really hard for Furries to out team fight them with a deficit. And if Clawseted Furries come out with a significant lead going into the mid-game, I think they should be able to just snowball the game and win. The amount of burst present in Lucian and Aatrox ahead is a beast of a champion. Will definitely kind of give Blake the like 1v3 potential that he kind of needed to get things done in the previous game instead of just kind of floundering around in this way and ultimate getting burned to death slowly.
Mm-hmm. It'll also be interesting to see just for top lane at least, itemization wise, what they go for. I know that right now the big thing is on Aatrox whether you go Gore Drinker or Eclipse. I think Eclipse, especially into the Seraphine and Silas, it might be enough damage that you can actually one-shot them before they heal too much.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
And it'll be interesting. I think Jackson, the last time I played, went Nashor's Tooth, Riftmaker, maybe Riftmaker, Nashor's Tooth, but just going full AP split push mode and just destroying turrets. But it'll also be interesting to see if they go for more of a tank setup to try to provide more for team fights rather than prioritizing the split push.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. The split push definitely doesn't have as much value here because once you enter a state in which you're winning the game as Janley, you want to be fighting as 5 and trying to punish Clawseted Furries if they split up. Instead of trying to split up on your own, I think if you are kind of splitting out as the Volibear and like the ZAC, Lucian, Aatrox, Lux just kind of have their way with the 5-4 split, I think it would go pretty poorly for you. So we'll have to see. Zac again with the exhaust in the mid lane, I think has some use into Silas. The Ignite honestly might be better, considering the Seraphine, Yumi, Silas, Kane. 2 Ignites would for sure not hurt this game at all. But the exhaust, he has definitely shown that he knows how to play around it correctly. So it does have that added value of like familiarity with him, but could be a potential weak point to punish a lack of heal cut on that team overall.
Exactly, and I think that the exhaust, like just being able to be comfortable with it, I think that might just be why they're going for it. I know that I personally cannot run cleanse, for example, because I never cleanse at the correct time. So it may be a similar thing where Zac is just always using exhaust, and the Ignite just feels awkward.
That makes sense. We definitely do want the like combat sum. I'm surprised Aatrox didn't also pick up a combat sum here. They're doing another 5-man. We'll see if they all go in as once instead of solo walking up. No, this looks the exact same as the other game. They might be able to hit the binding. Oh, just gets the flash immediately. That kind of dooms the lane. I feel like if you're playing this Silas like aggressive lane, you want to have that all-in potential. But he also didn't take Ignite, so his early kill potential is actually pretty bad onto this Lux.
I think especially though on the Silas, if you are playing kind of super aggressive and in your face.
Oh my gosh, that was so close.
If you are playing this kind of super aggressive and in your face, trying to push the wave and actually threaten the Lux, not having flash leaves you as a sitting duck for the Zac.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if Chimmy actually is able to make use of that earlier in the game.
Yeah, Silas does better without the flash than most champions do, because he does have a lot of dashes innately in his kit. So if you know how to play around the wave correctly and like hold your E at the right time, you shouldn't be in too much trouble. But I feel like Chimmy should have a target on Ant's back regardless, because Chimmy should be definitely looking to facilitate just any lane that is in a good position, and then just go super hard and try and get that character as fed as possible. Obviously getting people fed around the map is cool too, but as we saw last game, having like 1 or 2 fed champions or like a lane and jungle fed combination is like super doomed. Hard to fight into it.
Yeah, exactly. And Jackson here opted to go for Grasp, which is one of the many viable keystones on Volibear. But it'll be interesting to see how these trades play out without PTA.
Yeah. Blake seems to be losing the early trades. He might be able to kind of sustain this out with the natural sustain in Aatrox's kit. He opted to not go the Doran shield, which is, I feel like, specifically just very good into Volibear because of how it interacts with volley passive. Blake playing super aggressively, but very, very low health. Blake manages to outplay Under Tower again. He is the king of these plays.
And it's actually interesting there. He opted to flash towards Volibear to the other side. I think that's was super helpful in kind of throwing him off.
Yeah,
the
I
Seraphine
also kind of trapped the Volibear around his wave, and using creep block to his advantage definitely helped.
Yeah. The Seraphine Yumi just trying to be full health into Lushinami, and then just hoping to win by kind of giving Yumi and Seraphine a way to scale into the late game rather than kind of exert lane pressure.
And is able to hit this. Zach hits the binding, and Zach is able to hold onto the flash and only burn the exhaust.
It was interesting there. He burned the exhaust after Anne had did most of the damage. I probably would have liked to see the exhaust come out a little bit earlier, because right now, like we're seeing, Lux is a little bit. Oh, does he get the?
One more time probably needed to come out. Yeah, you're definitely right. If that exhaust had come down earlier, then Zach probably would not have needed to have run the flash there.
And now Zach has to base on a pretty bad wave.
Right.
Alrighty, even with the outplay under turret, just watching Jackson on the champion he's a little bit more comfortable on is huge.
Yeah. Layla's in a bad position here, but is actually able to get out. The Kane gank did not amount to enough. Oh, Blake actually throws the ability into the minion. Could have been big if he was able to pull the volley back in there. Zach is here top lane. Nice. That's another kill under the Aatrox. Fade Aatrox into this conversation is disgusting. You have 3 melee champions. Aatrox loves melees, so if he gets fed and maybe goes the Gore Drinker angle, it could be better, just because you'll be able to hit the Kayn, Sylas, and Volibear all pretty consistently. But I think either option is pretty good here.
And it looks like we're going to see the Gore Drinker out of Aatrox. I do agree, especially because the way that Zach frontlines is not in like a traditional 5v5 sense. So being able to kind of, be that
we gotta watch this. And Splash is back up, and Zach has no summoner spells. And Zach is positioning very aggressively, does not know the Kayn is there. There could be a play about to happen. Anne is freezing the wave. Could kind of be giving away that something is about to happen, but you do this? Okay. Jake comes down. And Zach is the double root. Exactly how you need to play that. And then dodges the the chains from Sylas. That was awesome.
Absolutely great movement by Zach to be able to dodge the Kayn W, the Sylas root, basically every skill shot they had that Zach needed to dodge, he did.
Yep. And then you read those numbers.
Exactly.
So
that was
Expertly played there. This Seraphine Yumi just trying to out-sustain. Yumi actually buying 2 Fairy Charms, basically to just try and stay in lane as long as possible, to make sure that Lucian, Nami don't get any plates is pretty good.
Blake might win this with ulti, but I think he's going to have to fight it.
The Q3 could be big here.
Oh my gosh.
And he gets the
Blake
out.
is ridiculous. The tower shot actually coming through right before the tower was disabled. And that's a double kill over to Blake.
Absolutely. 4-0 Aatrox, this is going to be very tough for them.
And they're getting dragons on the bot side of the map. This is the third game of this series where Clawseted Furries starts off with an absolute bang. They tend to do this pretty consistently. We just gotta keep a hold on that macro. luckily for them, if you're playing a composition like this where the team fight isn't as important, your macro doesn't need to be as good. You can just kind of throw your team at the other team like meatballs and hope it works.
And especially with the Aatrox, especially if Aatrox starts to get multiple items ahead, there's just nothing their team can really do about it, unless they have a huge CC chain. But even then, the Gore Drinker right after that completely nullifies the rest of their damage.
Sorry about that. Alright.
Silas has no mana here.
Yeah. Oh, does have a
It
flash,
does have
though.
to blow the flash.
Yeah, Garrett doesn't have as big of a CS lead as I would like him to, but I guess he did walk up to get the dragon. Blake might be able to get this, but again, focusing on that wave, he's been doing this all series pretty well. Results in huge leads for him every time he does it, but was not enough last game, maybe enough this game. And actually popped the TP to get back into lane, trying to trade pretty aggressively onto Zach, but is not able to get anything done yet. Gets the pullback on the Volibear. Blake should just be able to kill here.
Volibear is healing a lot. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, the empowered W, being able to get, I think, 3 or 4 Ws in that fight. The Volibear just healed so much of the missing health that it wasn't able to
I
net the kill.
think Blake should be able to get a dive here. He has the flash up.
It may just look too cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there we go. He knew that Jackson had the flash there, so there we go. Yep. He just needs to play it until he knows that Jackson doesn't have the flash, and then he can play DD. Because Aatrox flash plays are so satisfying to make, but this way Blake runs absolutely zero risk of Jackson just flashing on reaction.
I think realizing that he has the advantage and just kind of leaning on that advantage the whole time was huge.
Yep. Oh, that ulti was not great, and now he gets another flash.
And he, importantly, he still has his own flash.
Right.
So if they do have a fight for Rift Herald,
And
he's
he's
going
again.
to have a flash.
And is absolutely just locked down. Forces out Zach's flash, but does die in the process. Yeah, I think Chimmy has realized that he actually doesn't need to go top anymore to help Aatrox succeed. Aatrox picks up the Divine Sunder. Not either the items we were talking about. I think it is quite good into Red Cane and Volibear, but and also Silence, but I think the Gore Drinker might be better, but I don't know. I do not play enough Aatrox to question anything Blake does.
Yeah, and I think that Nile, this is actually one of the other ones that he's been running. I think he doesn't actually run Gore Drinker anymore. Who's he's an EUS Aatrox player.
Gotcha.
It looks so weird whenever he does it. But it'll be interesting to see what the second item is. It's absolutely going crazy with the Divine Thunder now.
And between the Aatrox passive...
Chimmy is coming top to get some more kills onto the Aatrox, and that is the 6th kill onto the Aatrox.
And I think that it's also important that now it's not just let me get Blake ahead, it's I need to farm my 7th camp because there's a bear in the top lane.
Zach is playing this game very well. Getting a lot of pressure in mid lane. They're trying to snowball this Silas, but it isn't panning out to too much. It's hard for Jake to really go to any lane here because Sop and mid have huge leads, and the goal of Sammy and Jake in this game is to not give kills to Lucian Nami. So if you offer more champions for them to potentially take down, that kind of undoes that. But it could be the angle, try and get the Seraphine Yumi ahead, but if you have a fed Seraphine and Yumi, you're not doing as much as if you have a fed Silas, so I understand the attempts to continue to try to snowball in.
Exactly. It'll be... Oh my goodness. Once
Shimmy hits this again. Shimmy does not have anything to auto for the Q, but he can just pop, pop, and he's dead.
that was an interesting interaction. Both the Silas and Zach guard were just bouncing all over the place.
And here's the Rift Herald. Considering the size of Clawseted Furries' lead, they're actually able to pick up the Rift here, which they had not done in the previous games. And they should be able to pick up their second dragon soon. They might be waiting for some resets. I know Lucian and Nami just took it back and are coming back into lane. Lucian is sitting on this Kraken, has the most farm in the game, which should make him pretty threatening. See,
We could see another dive here.
Right.
The volley does have the R for the bonus health.
Yeah, I just don't think you do that. Like,
Yeah.
I think Jackson might be a bit tilted. Something to be said for that. Blake
They did finally
strong here.
Yeah, and they did finally leave.
They are going to play bot side. This should be a double kill onto the Lucian Nami. Stanley's quite low. Oh, I respect the attempt to get onto the Seraphine, but Jake actually does find the angle and pull the trigger on a fight bottom. Stanley's able to hit the double Seraphine LT.
And the kill does actually go onto Yumi, which isn't bad before she gets Moonstone, because Moonstone is just such a huge spike.
True. Shimmy has been consistently very reliable with these steals. I know in that one game against us, he hit a bunch of them in a row. I don't know if he's going to be able to get this one. He looks like he's just trying to kill them. They coordinated that so well.
And the flash out too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My initial thought was Zach isn't going to be able to do enough damage there to steal it, but they for sure calmed that out ahead of time. Zach goes, I'm going to throw everything on it, it's going to burst it down, and then you can just pick up the easy smite. Looks like Jake smited early, or maybe hit the Zach instead of Dragon. Blake's now just zoning Jackson off the entire wave.
This is crazy, and I think based on the items that he has, it should be a flat cleaver second from Aatrox.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And then, especially with the bonus movement speed, he's just going to be.
Oh, Zach actually does get hit by this here. And's going in, has a lot of healing. I don't know if you need to flash the Lux ulti if he's exhausted when he's throwing it out. But oh, and that should just be a kill.
Getting the counter kill is huge because now he's able to shove out the lane and alleviate some of the pressure that he had.
And this is another huge ulti from Stanley, and Jacob's able to follow it up. The enemy team simply cannot move. The bubble hits, but it simply just does not matter. I think it's going to be really hard for Jimmy to actually be able to get anything done in the bot lane. I think a better angle for him could just be to look for aggressive invades and try and get himself ahead. If he feels like his solo laners are simply killing their opponents really quickly. Silas just CP top, so this is going to be a 1v3 for the Aatrox. He gets Jack pretty low to start it off. Silas' Aatrox the ult, that is a flash down from Volibear. Blake might not be able to kill Volley in time. That's huge. That's 1,000 gold on the bad Silas.
And this is what we saw last game.
Oh my goodness.
And this is what we saw last game too, is Anne was able to, even though they died a few times during lane, being able to hold on and then collect a big bounty is absolutely huge to actually stay in the game.
Yeah.
Keeping up that monk mental
Shimmy
right
might
there.
be able to pick up his skill solo.
Especially since Volley has no ulti for help. He's just gonna get gooped on.
Yeah. There is... Okay, so I feel like now that the towers are starting to fall down, we are entering that sort of mid-game state. I said earlier 3k gold lead was the threshold I was looking for. They're at 4,500, which is pretty good. They were at 5,500 until The Nami got collected, but you know. Still a good place for them to be in order to try to win. So now the onus is really just on Jake and Ann to kind of pull a repeat of the last game and make something happen. Because honestly, Jackson's not going to be able to get anything done. There's a chance that maybe Stanley can get super strong, but Yumi is not going to solo carry a game on her own just by the nature of the champion. So definitely looking for, there's like 3 middle players on Jellies. There's another 3-man into Aatrox. I like this one a bit less for Janley because they don't have that silence of the Aatrox ulti, but they could just get it anyway because they have a Yumi on a Volibear, which is essentially the same thing. Yeah, the Gore Drinker could have come in handy for situations like this. Zach might lose to the King here. He's trying to... Oh, no. Lying. Yeah, he just...
Yeah, his exhaust is on cooldown.
Yeah, he had no exhaust, no ulti, no flash. It's a really tough spot to play.
And there they just pick up another 2 set downs. The Zac is fighting the Volibear. Unfortunately, this time he doesn't have the help of the turret.
Yeah.
But I think he's... I don't think he actually wins this if Volibear's W keeps coming up.
Yep.
And now they're actually looking for to turn the kill back onto Zac.
Yeah. Blake should have a TP for Chimmy's passive here, which could turn it around. I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on it or not, though. Yep. Without
They do an
those
Aatrox
ultis,
star is
it's a
about
lot
to come
better.
up.
Yeah. Stanley had to flash a tower shot.
And did kill the
able to
Nami,
pick up
though.
a kill on the Nami. Rick Herald goes over to Jake. Here, we'll do a replay for this kill about that. Layla burns the bubble, so Ann just knows they can go in. Goes in if she ever cross and just one shot. Yeah, that is the downside of blowing that bubble on Nami when you aren't for sure gonna hit it.
Exactly, and itemization wise, from the bot lane, Yumi has full mythic and another. They're called.
So
what are they
close.
called? Like
Components?
forbidden idols, I think.
Oh yes.
And Nami is still waiting on a mythic because they went for a Oblivion orb.
Yeah, this is going to be the 3rd break going to Clawseted Furries unless it's able to be stolen. Fighting into Zac, either Zac or I'm sure he's able to pick up the kill. The Lux gets CC chained for way too long. Chimmy flashes over again. That flash is just on the dragon timer, I feel like.
And
It's able to get the blast
flashes as
zone,
well.
but he's probably just dead, yeah. The ulti actually comes in huge there and is able to save himself. So that's a 1-for-1 if the dragon counts as a champion on the enemy team. The gold lead is down to 3,000 though.
I think the gold lead from having 3 Drakes, especially because they're Mountain, Ocean, and Infernal, is still pretty strong.
Yeah.
And only being 1 away from that Infernal Soul, that's
Yeah.
really when the game is going to go absolutely crazy.
It's really just going to be like a pretty intense battle of, is Janley able to out-team fight this enough so that they're able to kind of bring the lead back down a little bit and close out the game.
Exactly.
I think we need to see like a Baron or something get forced from close to the Furries before too long, because their gold lead is going to start to dwindle pretty significantly. Because now that that pressure from the solo laner, or like on the solo laners, is kind of being relieved, it's harder for them to like be denied resources. Because Aatrox and Lux are going to be roaming around the map, which allows Volibear and Silas to also roam and pick up the resources where they can get them. This bot's pretty hard to fight, unless they're able to hit a good pick. And Anne just leaves Jackson to die there, I think. That's a really good interrupt on the Kane. I don't know if Garrett's going to be able to win this or not, though, but you'd think that 2v2 if they play it space out. Layla
Big
has, like,
bubble.
read his mind. Playing that really well. I don't know if Blake wins this 1v1. Yeah, he's just going to try and get out there. Jackson TP's back top. This is 4 people on the Aatrox. I think Chimmy should probably just let Blake die.
I think he does have the damage to outplay this.
Right, but the Seraphine ulti, yep, there we go, there's the flash. Maybe with the Seraphine ulti down, it could be big enough to help. But the Aatrox ulti isn't up anymore. They're just going onto the tower, and that is a kill onto the Aatrox, and Chimmy gets away. Now, Clawseted Furries is managing to lose on both sides of the map. Which is definitely not good for them. Chimmy is just dead here, I believe.
And this is where I think the nerf Divine Sunder too, having much less AD than Gore Drinker, as well as having less damage on hit, is actually playing a huge role.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is also, like, just as we've been talking about before, like, the macro from Clawseted Furries is just kind of not what it needs to be. Because Zach was just taking a mid-tower there. Is able to pick up a kill on the Seraphine, though, but...
oh my goodness! American Sniper!
Yeah, if he was there for those fights, though, and was able to hit those ults on multiple targets when it mattered, could be a different story.
Exactly, and I think we really haven't seen the Aatrox play with someone else, aside from Zach helping on a few counter ganks and dives. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like once this Aatrox has Maw completed and actually starts team fighting and playing with the rest of his team.
Yeah. Chimmy is just like waiting for him to do anything. Oh, he instantly cancels the E of the wall. I think that is
and then misses the Q.
Latency issue. Blame the internet. So the Baron
was
is
a ping
up.
diff right there.
It looks like both Aatrox and Zach are taking a quick reset here before the Dragon. This could be a very, very important fight for this game. I assume that neither of these teams are just going to let this objective slide through. At the very least, Jimmy's probably going to try and steal it. Zach takes it back with only 36 seconds left on the timer, so he's going to have to sprint there. Layla's still in base, I think probably waiting on an item or something. The fact that she's not out there with only 25 seconds left on the timer is pretty rough. She is still there, she's not moving.
Now she is.
Yeah, she was just waiting for, it looks like the completed Kindle gem? I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah, I think if it's not a mythic or full completed item, I don't think that was worth it. Aatrox has left the island though, and is coming
He
to
is
actually
in a bad
fight.
position. The Yumi ult comes down. Oh my gosh, the Lux ulti
Huge.
comes in huge. That's exactly what we're going to see. Blake's able to get a reset on the ultimate.
And the bounce house is
And
finally
another
coming
one.
together.
That's 2 kills for Clawseted Furries. And Stanley and Jacob are on the run. Looks like Chimmy is just going to turn and take the soul for himself. He's paying assists. Layla is coming to help.
I don't
That
think
Lux
that's
ulti
who he was asking
insane.
for.
Hits the binding.
Into the W too. Are they able to pick up the Yumi?
I mean, it would be embarrassing if they couldn't.
Hey,
This
Yumi with the
should
attack
be
speed
the Infernal
steroid.
Soul. It's taken a while. These buff dragons are pretty strong. Looks like there's an Infernal Soul directly transitioning into a Baron, but it looks like Lucian's backing. No coordination on the comms. Lucian ends up in base. Does not die to Silas. That's what really matters there. Janley does not yet have to deal with the super minions, so they might be able to contest the Baron, but we'll see if it even is attempted. And it looks like it's not going to be. Garrett doesn't pass the Baron, he passes right to the red buff. I'm wondering if this is like communication issues or not though, because it seems like the call is clearly Baron there, just from like the way that things are going out, and Garrett just backs and goes to red buff. So maybe they decided as a team that it was too late to go for. We'll have to see. Blake is able to pick up Spectre's Cowl and a Ruby Crystal. Going for that Spirit Visage to just increase his healing and sustain through the Silas and the Seraphine.
It'll be interesting, especially with having Merc Treads, Maw, and working towards a Spirit Visage. Kayn is really going to be the only one who actually deals damage to him. And unfortunately, the Kayn is not nearly as ahead as he was last game.
The Zoomies allow Stanley to narrowly dodge out of that one. Almost adding just another one shot on the board for Zach, but the fancy footwork is very helpful. Looks like Garrett is trying to bait for Blake. Anne's able to steal the ultimate, and is now going in on the Lucian, but just dies.
Yeah, really good by Garrett to be able to dodge out on the chains from Silas. Otherwise, Silas may have gotten a return kill on it.
Yeah.
Aatrox is backing to stop the volley bear.
Push. He doesn't have the Nashor's Rift, so his split push isn't as strong as it could be, but he is going like full defensive armor, so it looks like he will not be properly equipped to handle Lux, but the odds of them sending Lux to stop the split pusher are probably pretty low, so it's smart itemization. He's now going for the Zanyas, it looks like. Even more armor into his build.
And getting some more AP too will also be helpful on a split
True.
push to get that attack speed.
Yeah.
And actually more damage per auto.
I wouldn't be too surprised if he goes for Nashor's afterwards. It's just a question of, like, is the game going to go on for that long? Because if he is able to pick up that Nashor's, I think the game's gotten to the point where he has 4 items. It might be over in favor of Janley, but Clawseted Furries definitely has the agency to try and end the game here. One good fight, or like a Baron take could decide it.
I think they're looking for a Lux binding into...
Anne's in a side lane with no TP. That's this game, I think.
The Kayn is actually able to dodge out.
Yeah, only 2 people hit on the Seraphine ulti. Kayn's down. Volibear's trying to back before too much happens.
I think they're going to... They actually don't see if he's able to get the back off.
Yeah.
I think Seraphine and Yuumi are still dead here.
Anne continues to split bot lane. I think they might have just realized that the game's over.
I think Anne is going for the base race strategy here. I'm not sure if it's going to pay
If they're
off.
doing that, they should be sprinting towards Thompson, I believe. Like, they just started backing now. Like,
And they just blow up the volley bear, and the game is over.
yeah, I mean, Silas is the strongest champion on your team. I don't know why you posture for a fight mid lane while he's split pushing by himself at the bottom lane. That series was crazy.
That was a really banger game, though.
I feel like I was on the
there was
edge
a
of
lot-
my seat for like that whole thing because it's like, you know, are they gonna throw another lead or not? But Blake simply just got too fat, and that one Lux ulti from Zach was ridiculous.
When Seraphine is trying to run away from the turret shot and then instead gets hit by the Lux laser.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking, but that was just as good. I meant the one where he just like drilled the entire team.
Oh, true,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Just real quick, I think obvious MVP game 2, or actually, you could give it to Kayn, but I think the Swain probably deserves it. So, and for game 2,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
definitely Blake for game 3, right?
For sure.
Okay. Cool beans. Alright, it is 11:08, and I have a job, so I'll probably be getting off. It was great casting with you, though. It was super fun.
It was
to
great
watch
casting
that
with you,
game.
too.
We could actually hop in the lobby and kind of chill with everybody. I will cut stream, though. Thank you, everyone who watched. It was I will check how long the stream was, but it was pretty lengthy. It seems like it was 3 hours and 18 minutes. Shout out to anyone who watched the whole thing. Much appreciated. Alright. See y'all next time.